Hello, everybody. This is Patrick, the editor, and I have to step in before the episode starts here and tell you that unfortunately, we had some crazy technical difficulties with this episode. Beatrice's track somehow got really funky sounding, and we tried everything we could. She tried stuff on her end. I tried everything I could on my end to fix it, and unfortunately, it is the way that it sounds. So we talked about different things we could try to do, and in the end, we decided to just try to edit the episode as best I could and to give you guys an episode. This is a really important special episode. It's our big strike episode where the hosts and the guests are all talking about their opinions of the brand new Strike novel, and you're getting to hear their kind of reactions and their honest opinions. And so I think it is a really nice, really great episode. And just know we tried everything we could. And I just want to say, if this maybe helps anybody, the more I was listening, the more I just found my ears adjusting to the situation. And I found myself more easily understanding and following the flow of conversation. So hopefully that happens with you guys as well. And I also want to just say to everybody before I go, Happy Halloween. I know that this episode's releasing after Halloween, but we don't all need to rush into Christmas as fast as possible. We can bask in the awesomeness that is Halloween for a little while. So I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Halloween, and I hope you all sincerely enjoy this episode. So let's get into it.
Give me big old buckets of butter beer. Give me big old barrels of butter beer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butter beer.
Hello and welcome everyone to The Three Broomsticks. We invite you to pull up a chair, grab a butterbeer, and settle in for a hearty discussion about Harry Potter. And today, something a little bit extra. I'm Ev McLaughlin.
And I'm Sophia Jenkins.
And today we not only have one guest with us, we have three guests with us. Our amazing strike panel is back. And we have Beatrice Groves with us, Louise Freeman, and Nick Jeffrey. Would you like to introduce yourselves and give us a little bit of your Hogwarts... I always think of it as a Hogwarts passport, with a little inclusion of what is your favorite strike book, since you're our strike panel, and your favorite secret society in J.K. Rowling's work.
Well, I'll start with, I'm Beatrice Groves, and thank you very much for inviting me, and I'm a Raven Puff, and my favorite strike book remains Troubled Blood. We were talking last time about how is it going to change, but it hasn't changed yet. And my favourite secret society is Dumbledore's Army. I really enjoy Harry imagining being a teacher and lesson planning.
All right. Well, I am Louise Freeman. I'm also very excited to be here. My Hogwarts house is Ravenclaw. My favorite strike book remains Lethal White. And my favorite secret society in Rowling's work is, well, since Beatrice took the DA, I'm going to pick the Marauders. And by the way, after all we went through in the Hallmarked Man, I'm having fire whiskey now instead of butterbeer, just to make that clear.
I think that's fair. I think that's totally fair. Nick?
So my name's Nick Jeffrey. I'm also a Ravenclaw. My favorite strike book is The Running Grave. And I really wanted to say that my favorite secret society was Shanker's Irregulars. I can't claim that they're anything like organized enough to be called society, so I'm going to go for the Order of the Phoenix.
Very good. We have a lot of Ravenclaws today.
I don't think it's any accident.
Definitely.
And I am a Hufflepuff too.
Welcome,
I'm the only
Hufflepuff.
Gryffindor, so hello, I'm also here.
We're a Slytherin free. But Irvin's another Ravenclaw like me, isn't he? So.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you have probably guessed, today for episode number 73, we are gathered to discuss fandom crossover with Cormoran Strike, connections between the Potter books and the Hallmarked Man, which is the latest installment of the Strike series. Obligatory warning, there'll be spoilers for Cormoran Strike books up to and including the Hallmarked Man. So if you are still reading it and haven't finished it, please stop now and return later. We have quite a lot of recommended reading. if you're so inclined. We do have a lot of Ravenclaws here, and they've written a lot of interesting stuff. So we have various essays about the connections of the Deathly Hallows symbol and the Masonic symbols, alchemical symbolism of Deathly Hallows. We have Louise's blogs of her first impressions of the Hallmarked Man. And this will all be available for you to click and enjoy in our show notes. Now, because we are needing not only butterbeer, but fire whiskey and possibly lots of it, a huge thank you to Katie Rieken over on our Patreon, who bought this round of drinks at the pub for us all. Thank you so much, Katie.
Yay!
Woo! Yay! And if you, dear listener, would like to buy us a round at the pub, or 2 or 3, head over to patreon.com/3broomsticks with numeral 3 to sign up. You can listen to all sorts of fun Patreon content. Myself and Oreo recently recorded another installment of our Britishisms series, and it's all about sweets, just in time for Halloween.
Nice.
So there is something for everyone. Right. And without further ado, let's dive head first in the silver sea that is the Hallmarked Man, and how it is or isn't connected to Harry Potter. So starting with the Hallmarked Man, what are everyone's first impressions? What did you like? What you didn't like? I feel like it's going to be quite a polarizing book. Beatrice, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, I'd have to start. Obviously, loads of stuff. The thing that I didn't like about it was I just was sad about the relationship between Robin and Strike in this. So just a number of things. With the main one is Robin thinking that Strike could have been abusive to Candy. I just thought you know him better than that. I don't believe you could really think he would sexually assault a woman like that. So I felt that was very disappointing, and I felt out of character. And I couldn't help feeling that we were getting, something not quite in character for Robin in order just to make the story last longer, which is not, a bit disappointing. No, I've not had anyone mention, so I felt gaslit by this novel, and I haven't had anyone say this. So let's just start with that, which is that when both Strike and Robin remember the conversation at the end of the running grave, they both remember Charlotte going, Charlotte believed I was in love with you. Charlotte thought I was in love with you. And that's not what he said. He said, Charlotte knew I was in love.
No.
And anyone who's done any philosophy at all knows that you cannot know something that is not true. You can believe something that's not true. You can think something that's not true. You cannot know something that's not true. Therefore, that is absolutely 100% an acknowledgement that he's in love with her. And both of them just ignored that in this book. They both thought, Charlotte believed I was like, no, she didn't believe, she knew. So I was very frustrated by that. And I thought that was very unfair. And that was a sort of backpedaling from some place we had got. So that was annoying. I really liked Strike in this book. I thought he was, really committed, really tried hard. I love the scene in Sark where he put her needs first and didn't make the declaration. I also really enjoyed the plot in terms of, I did think there were some major holes, which we might get into, but I thought it was very, very clever. I love the way she does a new thing each time with her form, and this idea of having not only the murderer, but the victim being unknown, and what that does for the reader, and that you've got 5 different plots that you're following, and 4 of them are not going to be the murder. I thought that was very inventive, very successful, and one of those things that on a reread is much more enjoyable because you kind of work out what's going on a bit more. But that was her sort of trademark skill of doing something different each time, and I did really enjoy that. And then there were little bits which we'll talk about, fantastic scenes with Rugby, stuff with Shankar, lots and lots of bits to enjoy throughout.
Great. So, full disclosure, I'm probably the least strike experienced person on today's lineup of experts. So, not expert at all. I've only read each book once. So, because people kept telling me how much I'm going to enjoy them. So, eventually I've given them a go. So, I don't think I have a lot of particularly deep analysis, but what I do have is a lot of first impressions for sure. What I did like was I think there were a lot of amazing scenes in this book, like Rugby scene and the bracelet scene, and if a few of the others, the the scene with the dog and Strike getting pepper sprayed. There were a lot of very, very vivid, very fun or interesting or moving scenes in terms of overall plot and the structure of the book. Now we're moving on to the things I didn't like quite as much. Is I think the relationship angle, the misunderstanding that just keeps going on and on and on. I felt like that should have ended halfway through the book, not at the very end on the last page. I felt like that was a little bit too much. I was a bit out of character for Strike and possibly for Robin, and you could explain it. You could explain both of it, but it was a little bit too much for me. It was a bit too long and frustrating. Maybe I was meant to be frustrated, and then that means it's good writing. But I'm not sure I wanted to be that frustrated. Yeah. Nick, what about you?
So I really did enjoy reading it, but my tradition reading Rowling's works, certainly since Career of Evil, is that each new book I read becomes my new favourite. Ink Black Heart, I had to read it twice, then it became my favourite, but that's the way it goes. And that's not true yet, and I'm on my third read now of the Hallmarked Man. And I've been trying to work out why that is. I thought for a while I didn't feel like I was immersed, like I was in the story the same way I was with Hallmarked Man. But I don't think that's true. I think it's just there's so much going on. I had too many points of confusion. Now, me being confused in itself is not unusual. So reading Running Grave, which is still my favourite, I was shocked by Abigail because I completely forgot I was reading a whodunit. Mm-hmm. So me being confused isn't a problem. It's just so many times I had to stop and think, sorry, who's Tyler Powell again? That it didn't give me the same feeling I get off the other books. I have to say, second time through, I enjoyed it much more, even though I enjoyed it the first time.
Yeah. Nick, there was one line that, right when Robin says there at the end, I feel like we'd sort of gotten to know Tyler at the end without realizing. My initial thought was, well, I'm glad someone did, because I'm still mixing him up with that brain damaged soldier. So yeah, I absolutely get that point.
Which is a shame in a way, because actually that was a lovely little story, although we only really find out around the edges of it, of what happened. Yeah. But it is a lovely story.
It is lovely. And I did feel I knew him from that meeting with the neighbours. Yeah. And so both the conversation and then also the helping the disabled child up the stairs. And you think, well, that's not a career criminal. This is someone else. I did feel I was getting at him, but I agree. It did take you by surprise a bit. I had a thing with the names. I don't know if other people. I thought, is this meant to be? So we had a character called Rena Liddell and a character called Riata Lundvall. And at no point did anyone suggest that Rena Liddell might have been Rita Linda, but she seemed just as likely to be Rita Linda as Riata Lundvall. And I thought, are we meant to have got confused here? or has she sort of forgotten how close these names are? And I couldn't quite tell. It's the same with Austin H, which is the name of a Mason, but there's no reason that Tyler Powell would have taken that name.
I thought they explained it like that it's his favorite car or something.
Austin,
right, but why would it be the set? That's such a coincidence that it seemed to me it doesn't work as a coincidence. We'd need to have some, connection.
I'm wondering if confusion wasn't a deliberate tactic and we just don't know why yet.
Yeah, but it was already very confusing. So I thought we didn't need an additional confusing about people completely unrelated with almost the same name.
I also got confused because I was listening to the audiobook. So,
wow.
Yeah. So there is a Sophia and a Sapphire.
Yeah.
And I was so lost.
Yeah. And I thought we are clearly meant to confuse these people. There's meant to be, he's picking on people with names that are like jewels and giving them ruby necklaces. And no, there was no connection. And I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. But I mean, even reading it, it was the same Sophia and Sophia. I think some people didn't notice it, but I definitely thought, oh, this is some kind of, hint. But no, it wasn't.
Which I think is one of the reasons why my favourite moment is right in the middle of the book. And it's my favourite because, at least on the surface, of its beautiful simplicity, but also just the delicious character of Valentine Lancaster. It's the interview with Robin and Valentine. He's so wonderfully horrible.
That's definitely one of the scenes that I thought was very good.
Yeah. It's really good scenes, isn't it? But so unpleasant, but really good.
I am sure we haven't seen the last of Valentine. He's got to come back.
She loves writing vicious people.
Yeah.
He had a, again with the Potter connections, that was definitely one of those where you thought, really getting back into these.
Did anybody else think that it was a little bit like Dumbledore and Dursley's? Not to compare Robin to Dursley's, but it's like, come on, drink up.
Yes, I hadn't spotted that. But you're
I
right.
hadn't thought of that, but I like that.
I was thinking that too with Dino. Yeah.
Yeah. You really like it, and it's like, the Dursleys don't refuse, don't they?
Yeah.
I like the fact it's clever having those things like her liking the drink, her looking fantastic in the pink dress. It's clever. He's horrible, but these little moments where, it's clever.
Clarify for me, are we talking about Valentine or Dino? I mean, they were both
talking about
Lancasters,
Dino, I
but Nick, you're talking about Valentine.
I'm talking about Valentine.
And we're talking about Dino. Yeah.
And the others are talking about Dino, the father, in the club.
In the club. But they were both, really good scenes. Yeah, but they're both really good scenes of Robin taking on a vicious adversary.
And the characters are different, but they are both deliciously awful. Really nice.
Yeah.
My least favourite is just where Strike is so out of character, and it's manipulative Strike. So this is Strike who's willing to change the strategy of an investigation just to put a spanner in the works of Robin's relationship. It's understandable, but it's just not what he would do. And I think there's a reason behind it. I think Strike is damaged as well, not as obviously damaged as Robin is, but I think Strike is damaged in this book, and I'm hoping that is something deliberate that Rowling has written in so that it can be resolved in later books.
You know what? I'd understand if it was shorter. So if he did something like this, because, love addles people's brains and stuff like that. Yeah. If he did that and then afterwards he was sitting in his apartment and was like, what have I done? This is so against what I'm normally like, what I would normally do. But there didn't seem to be any of that.
This is sort of, Dumbledore being misled, isn't this? His love for Grindelwald. He loses his post.
We had Strike talking to his goldfish twin, saying, you've done this to yourself.
I was outraged by that. If they hadn't fed it, it's not the goldfish's fault they're feeding it wrong. No. So I did feel
No,
Victim
no,
blaming
that's
on
right.
the goldfish.
But if we take that as a bit of self-reflection, I don't think he's quite put his thumb on the "this is what I've done."
I think what you were saying, Nick, about Strike being damaged, I hadn't thought of it before, but it does seem like part of how he's learned what it means to be in love with someone is through his relationship with Charlotte, and Charlotte was a very manipulative person.
Yeah.
So it might be something where in his mind, that is what love looks like.
That was my feeling. That was my
yeah.
feeling reading Strike is you're acting just like Charlotte now. You're trying to manipulate a situation to get an advantage, to get an effect, to make Ryan angry. You know, this isn't who you are.
Yeah.
On the positive side, obviously a great Strike moment in this is knowing that Wardle needs support and going out of his way with all his own problems to go and be there for him. And that was, I always loved seeing that. And I love Wardle as a character generally, sort of coming back in as someone minor who we haven't particularly cared about, getting, you know, he's got his own redemption arc in this. And then he had the great scene at the end where, you know, being the law-abiding person, Reed Barclay trying to kick their heads in, and you're like, they're making a great threesome in this scene. So that was really nice.
You know, one of the worst things Strike did during the story is when he took Mrs. Two Times' case. Mm-hmm. And that, Nick, I don't see, that didn't have anything to do with Robin, at least not as far as I can tell.
No.
And I mean, okay, you don't double cross your own client that way. I mean, your cover's been blown. You can't do the job, but he's not only going to keep taking Two Times money and pretend he's still got his wife under surveillance, but now he's going to use his relationship with Two Times to flip that on its end and spy for her. And we can't even excuse, he's lovesick for Robin, and that's why he's doing it. Robin wasn't involved with that.
I don't know what he would have done otherwise, though.
But he sort of approached that with the bugging of the Wynn's office in Parliament. Again, that wasn't really from a noble motive. That was to get a job done.
It's also that one. It really annoys me when they're sort of so delighted that Baston goes to prison for doing exactly the same thing that they did. And I was like, guys, do you not have slightly more, you know?
But I have high hopes for Wardle joining the team. He is going to be the conscience of the agency. Yeah.
It's like, is this legal? No. Let's stop that.
Yes.
Do not kick our suspect in the head, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
No, I think it's going to be
Yeah, that's a good segue to some of my least favorite moments. Well, first, I'll tell my impressions, but then, yes, that was one of my least favorite moments at the end. I think I may be in the minority, but I really love this book. I'd say I love the first half more than the second half. I'm still like wrapping my head around the second half, but I am a big romance lover. And so a lot of the things that I think other people found difficult to read, I was eating up. I love the, like, you know, the heart, like the pangs of disappointed love, the, like, you know, trying to find the time to make your declaration and, like, you know, doing like the jealousy, the sort of like, I love the drama of it. There's so much rich romantic drama in this book and I ate it up. And I feel like in general, she doesn't really lean into that genre, and I know not everyone liked the fact that she did, but I loved it. I was like, finally, we get all the things that I've been wanting this whole series. So I loved, you know, all of, like, we finally got Strike thinking about how much he loved Robin and how much he wanted to be with Robin, like, the whole time, and, like, making plots for it, and I was like, that is what I've been craving this whole time. But I do think, you know, the second half I struggled with more because I think this is very common in the romance genre, that there are these big misunderstandings that are keeping the couple apart, and if they literally just open their mouth and said what was on their mind, like, everything would be cleared up and they would be fine.
For the whole book,
and
though. The whole book. The entire time.
Well, I felt like the second half more so because Robin at the first half, it's like Strike is looking for the right time to say his declaration. But the second half is like Robin, and I was listening to the audiobook, so I'm not sure if I'm using halves correctly. I don't know where it started. But the second half, Robin was really angry at him and frustrated and never says it. And Strike knows that she's angry and never asks her about it. And to me, this just it isn't really that far out of character. It really isn't out of character for them, to be honest. I thought they'd moved past it, though, but it is in character. And there are plenty of people who are really bad at speaking their mind, but I found it very frustrating, the extent to which, they just couldn't say, Robin couldn't say, I'm angry at you for these reasons. These are the things, or that Strike couldn't have said, I can tell you're angry at me. Tell me all the reasons you're angry at me. It's just...
yeah. Let's have a list. So that was, it did build up to the real relief of the moment in the car when he's honest about baby and she says, comes back into focus. And so that, I did feel we really earned that. And, we always know that they have a great scene in the car. So that was really nice. But I felt it didn't change enough after that.
Right.
So you felt like, yes, we've earned this, but then it just carries on with them not really saying what they think. And,
right. And also, I think it also did lead up to that final moment on the stairs, which I loved that it happened on the stairs. That was probably my favorite moment. And there's the moment right before it happened that I was like, oh my God, this is about to happen. She's on the stairs. He's about to go on the stairs. It's coming. And yeah, you could just feel that, that Kairos moment and where he is finally taking action and making change, and you're like, thank God, Strike, you've taken long enough, do it. And
I haven't worked it out, but I think it may have. So she did the clear showing us the symbolism of Robin having perception this way. I think it might be basically the same day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's worth working out.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's off the two, but I think that might be the case. It's definitely around the right time, which would be really fun if it was.
So they met on Murphy's birthday.
That doesn't sound like very good symbolism, does it?
It does not, no. So you see, for me, if they moved, well, I say they, I'm not sure who they is. If J.K. Rowling moved to the very end to the middle, so I think they would have still given enough space for the misunderstanding.
But she's not gonna,
stuff.
She wants a cliffhanger, doesn't she? Yeah.
There needs to be
if it was in the middle, and then I would like to have seen what Robin does with the Ritz, and maybe she agrees to get married anyway, and there would have been enough drama left for the other half of the book, and there still could have been a cliffhanger of some sort. Maybe
not again. No, that's
I don't know. Maybe that's too soon. I'm not sure.
But she can't
we've
do
been
that
wrong
again.
on this
Not
before.
again.
No, yeah, we can't do that again.
Oh, you think so, do you? Was anybody expecting this? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. But I felt the end of the book was too similar to the end of the last book.
Yeah.
It just felt like we've sort of gone 900 pages and we've got somewhere very close to where we were 900 pages ago.
Because I think usually you could have a cliffhanger, yes, but it's also kind of a resolution, which I think we didn't have.
She's not
it
gonna
almost
do
was
that,
like a cliffhanger, and there should have been a next chapter. Almost, it wasn't. It didn't feel like the end of the book. No, yeah,
yeah. I think she clearly has a plan of where the next book is going that meant that this one had to end where it did. So I guess, we'll have to see where that takes us. But yeah. Anyway, and then least favorite moment, we touched on it, but I really did not like when Strike was threatening violence and using violence on the suspects at the end, because I could understand the emotional motivation behind it, but it was really, he was taking big risks for they're ethical questions here. And And also he was taking big risks for the investigation, and especially after all of what the agency had been through over that year and like what they had suffered through in part because of bad press that Strike had gotten them. I was like, you're making these decisions without Robin there, and like if it goes badly, that's like you had made the decision to basically fuck up the agency and like this big case on your own because you were upset. And like if Robin did that, you would be pissed at her, as we know, because she's done that
blood
before.
loss talking a bit.
Yeah.
And I found that I'm very squeamish, so that was also a bit too much for me.
Yeah. So I was very much on Wardle's side. I like am happy we have Wardle in the agency because I'm like,
so it's nice to have Wardle. Yeah. So go Wardle.
because like this is exactly what like Strike fired Robin for. It was like, you know, making emotional decisions that jeopardize their case, and that's what I felt like he was doing here, which, you know, he's done before in his life, which is why he understood why Robin did it. I didn't quite understand why in this moment.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, well, maybe he'll give Wardle the job of writing them an ethics code, and then they can move ahead with it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, again, to be honest, this is so far my least favorite of the series. Like Nick, I didn't like manipulative Strike. I got aggravated with perpetually suspicious Robin.
Mm-hmm.
And there were just too many soap opera-ish cliche elements. You know, the pregnancy traps, the infertility, the alcoholic relapse, the incest. It was just too much. I guess it's the type of drama, you know, that is typical of, you know, I think of it associated with soap operas or cheap romance novels. There's just too much of that and not enough of, you know, what I have enjoyed about other books. Now, I will say I'm in the process of rereading, and it is improving. Once I go back, and particularly with the realization of how traumatized Robin is, her actions become a bit more understandable. So I'm really looking forward to delving more into her psychology on the reread and having that part make a little more sense. My absolute favorite moment was the charm bracelet, which was the really first feel-good moment of the book, and it didn't come till the end of part 3. But then looking back and realizing that Shankar, of all people, is one who gave him the idea for it, that was wonderful.
Yeah. I love that. And Shankar's dad, even more, you know, it's probably even worse than Shankar. So I love that it came such a romantic moment, came from such an unromantic source.
And I also like that it was positioned right after the description of that hellacious Christmas party at Lucy's, complete with the return of Marguerite.
Yeah, it's great.
That was just hysterically funny.
Yeah, the party was great, wasn't it? It was really, really funny. And as you say, that's the emotional payoff of something that was so funny and sort of slight, as it were, to then this huge moment.
I mean, the whole party just made you want to cringe. It took me back to sort of Flick's party in Troubled Blood, and you realize...
exactly. I felt exactly the same. A mixture of the Marguerite dinner party and Flick's party.
And it's like, wow, you know, a well-off suburban clean house can also have a really disgusting bathroom during a party like this. And it reminded me why I really have always hated that type of party, and it reminded me exactly why. So to have the contrast with, you know, Strike having gone through that evening, lying in the spare room, not wanting to be there, and then getting that text from Robin about the bracelet, and that just made that whole thing so much better.
And that lovely moment of him carefully putting one kiss for everyone. After all the thing we've had about the first time he ever puts a kiss in something and all the rest of it, that was really nice.
So least favorite moment, I'm probably in the minority here, but I largely disliked the last chapter. I was very glad that Strike finally told Robin in entirely unambiguous, cannot possibly be confused language that he was in love with her. And, like Sophia, I absolutely love that it happened on the stairs where their first encounter was. But the nitty-gritty of the details, I've got a lot of problems with. Maybe it's because I'm pushing 60 and therefore I'm closer to Pat's age than I am to Strike or Robin or many of their hardcore shippers. But my response to the shouted marriage proposal was about the same as Pat's. No, wrong move. She's going to think you're crazy, and she's right. Get a new plan, like now. And a lot of people really melted over the easily remedied line, but I really hated that. I mean, Strike knows Robin is struggling with PTSD because of physical attacks by men. He can see she's upset, she's angry, she's confused. He should know better than to put his hands on her and pull her toward him. And when Robin actually has to push him away, this is the man who had never before made her feel physically unsafe. And maybe she wasn't feeling physically unsafe
Yeah,
then,
she doesn't feel physically unsafe,
but
because it does say she's, it says she's trembling with desire. It says trembling, and she hated herself for trembling. So that is definitely not I'm physically uncomfortable. It's no, I don't wish to feel what I'm feeling.
Yeah, but still, she is in the position where she is pushing him away. And my thought when that happened is like, okay, who wrote this? Dorcas Pengelly? That was just wrong to me. And Galbraith, I think, is usually better than this. So, I mean, there's a lot more I could say, but basically, you have the detective saying that the murder is so convoluted that no one is going to believe it. And you have them saying this is one of their least enjoyable cases ever. I think you have to expect that the readers might feel the same way. So,
do you think that Strike might be struggling for his mental health as well? Could that be an explanation for why he is so out of character?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think this is sort of the problem with both Strike and Robin. I mean, the last time Robin went through a mental health crisis, we experienced the panic attacks with her from her perspective, and went through the whole thing, sitting on the bathroom floor and trying to breathe herself back into.
I think that's such a good point, Louise. We're just not. We want to be with her, and we're just not sympathising. I mean, the trauma that happens to her in this one, the incredible attack in the car, the gorilla mask, it's terrible trauma. We should be absolutely on her side when she's behaving like this. Mm-hmm. And we're not, because we haven't, that trauma's just not treated seriously enough.
And if you look at, and almost all of her things, like, she was having nightmares about this. She was jumpy at loud noises. She was putting the chair in front of her door at night. I mean, yes, it tells her she's feeling the trauma now, but we don't feel it the same way we did.
It's like the difference of Joan's death with Ted's death.
Exactly.
Did not expect Ted's death to happen off camera, as it were. It's like, it just says, he's got an emotional hangover from the last week. Compared to what we went through, we wept for Joan. Yeah. I can't imagine anyone wept for Ted. There just wasn't an option.
Do you think that was a little bit like... there was just too much to get through in all the convoluted bits of the plot that we didn't have the
bit of that.
Airtime, screen time for getting into the more emotional stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Ted, it's because he couldn't repeat it. We've had Joan, so we just can't have the same thing happen. So I think that's why that one happened. But yes. Maybe some of the others. It just felt rushed through what Robin was going through.
And I think maybe that speaks to Robin's own, how she was treating what she was going through. I think it kind of made sense to me that, she was very much trying to minimize that trauma. And so that's sort of what we saw, because she wasn't willing to go there. She wasn't willing to admit what she was going through.
Well, getting back to Nick's original point, do we think what's Strike's mental health like right now? I think we know even less about it. The one moment we had that moment when he was seeing the bus come down the street and thought about stepping in front of it.
Yeah.
That, I think, was the only real clue, and it was so quick and so brief that...
It was also, again, I just didn't... we've always had his, never self-pity, and I realise it's a sort of ideation of suicide, but it felt very out of character for everything else we've had of him. So again, I just felt that felt odd to me, that he would think I can solve all these problems by killing myself.
I kind of thought it was more of a kind of a thought. It wasn't a specific plan.
I didn't think it was.
It was a thought, but it was. Yeah. But she's chosen to put that thought in.
I thought it was a more casual thing. Like,
we also had him drinking on the train, didn't we? That was another thing.
And drinking when he was driving the next day.
Again, I was outraged. I was like, she didn't have to do that. No. She didn't have to tell us that he knew he was over the limit. We could have just assumed he'd had enough and he'd slept and been all right. Again, I was appalled that our hero should be drink driving us. Yeah. It's like when he organised the prison meeting.
Yeah.
In the previous one, I was like, we can't have a hero who does that. So, every now and then I feel, well.
Apparently we can.
Yeah, but I was shocked. Do. I was shocked by that. I did.
In my opinion, Strike has never been a traditional hero. No. Like, I think a lot of the series, I have questioned him.
Drink driving is a very serious crime. Yeah. It's a very serious crime. You're just like, this isn't all. He could kill someone. This is awful. And it's not being treated seriously. And I was, totally bemused by that.
I agree. Should we move on to our Harry Potter connections to Hallmarked Man?
Yes. Can I say something that is probably slightly unhinged, but it just crossed my mind as we were talking about this?
Sure. Go for it.
As we were all talking about less the part about Strike and Robin and more the part about the different parts of the narrative. And at some points, there are so many that we almost kind of forget who we're supposed to care about, like some of the candidates for who the body is supposed to be. So it's almost a little bit like they all could have had their own quite interesting, maybe like a novella, So that made me think about, of all things, Crimes of Grindelwald, which I was probably one of the few people who actually liked it. But I remember leaving the cinema and thinking, oh my God, you clearly could have written this as quite a substantial book and actually covered all the strands of the story, which are looking very clipped and very unfinished and not quite make sense. But if there was space for them to expand and really put the detail in, that would be so interesting. So at times in The Hallmarked Man, I felt like this. So I think it lacked some emotional impact because there wasn't enough space to experience it, because we also had to be frustrated with Strike and Robin the entire book, and there's only so many words you can put on the page,
It's the funny thing, because critics always like too long, like, no, we need another 500 pages to get it the full thing.
But that's another work. Crimes of Grindelwald is another work where actually plot confusion was an integral part of the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the way they manage to get away with it is they confuse everyone because nobody knows who's doing what the plot is. And this is one where the reason why they get caught was they made too complicated a plot.
Yeah.
So I think Rowling's half expecting us not to be able to keep up and follow along with it. So they have characters talk about it.
Yeah, possibly. So for me, The Hallmarked Man is my Crimes of Grindelwald. So this is my unhinged thought for the day before we jump into the Harry Potter connections.
But no, I agree, and I definitely, one of the main ones for me was the simple story, which was really where the silver and the Masonic imagery and everything. And there was a lot, we were promised all that stuff beforehand, and then it felt very truncated, and I would have loved more. There was a bit at the beginning when he found out what an F was, and we had the story of Hiram Abif and the murder, and thought that seemed really fun, and then it just sort of stopped
Yeah, I thought there wasn't enough. There wasn't enough of the Masonic stuff.
Exactly, not enough. Exactly, there should be a lot more, because the Masonic stuff just didn't really tie into the real person. So I think it just stopped. So it was just Semple's story, really. But exactly, it would be really fun, and just to have done more with that.
I would have liked if, the way Robin infiltrated the cult in the previous book. It'd be fun if Strike infiltrated a lodge.
Absolutely.
That would have been so good.
There were people
Would that be?
beforehand who definitely were saying, "Oh, maybe that'll happen." And exactly, it'd be really fun seeing him, because he could have pretended a bit more, because you don't have to believe stuff like when he, Strike admitted nothing, which we haven't when he goes to the church. He could have absolutely said, "I'm here for the sort of the fellowship and the fun."
And he has an in with his friend Hardaker,
yeah,
who is
Hardy,
already.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We could have found out that Ted was a Mason or something.
Yeah, that would be fascinating. We are rewriting the book as we speak. Sorry, but this is an aside.
But it would have been nice to have a bit more on that. Exactly. I think this is a more a symbolically interesting area.
I would have enjoyed that, but I also think coming right after Running Grave, it might have felt a little bit too much of a repeat.
I'm fine with that.
But I think it is, and you could do the thing where it's Strike's version, which does do that, where you have a thing that Robin does, and this is the Strike version of this. But yeah, I think people think going into it thought, ooh, is the Masonic stuff a bit too similar? But the Running Grave Church is sort of all made up and sort of all about feelings and stuff. It could have been quite different, I think. But yeah, anyway, there we go.
So connecting that to Harry Potter, was that B? Did you want to share something about the Deathly Hallows connection? Yeah.
Well, it's in the blogs at the bottom of the page, but she told us that she had been watching The Man Who Would Be King, which is a film based on a fantastic Kipling short story, which I recommend both the story and the film to everybody. And that film really bases itself on this symbol, with the Masonic symbol of an eye within a sort of set square. And it's a very similar image so the Deathly Hallows symbol is kind of a simplified version of this Masonic symbol. And quite, 10 years ago, but quite recently, she said that she had been watching that film on the night her mother died. She discovered her mother had died the next day, and she realized she'd been watching the film while that. So it's this very sort of powerful personal moment for her. And she suddenly realized when she watched it again recently that the Deathly Hallows symbol had been influenced by watching that film at that moment, and that's sort of going into her psyche. So she has specifically said that the Deathly Hallows symbol is a Masonic inspired symbol. So I did feel that sort of that power of Masonic imagery, the idea of this sort of underlying symbolism of the all-seeing eye and things like that, which is how it's described when we see it on the necklace of Luna's father. Nothing comes out. Obviously, there's no explicit masonry in Deathly Hallows, but it absolutely is an important symbolic underlay, and it has been for her for a long time. So I was hoping for, again, she obviously told us that was coming up in this one, and so I thought it was going to have a sort of deeper side rather than just this fake cover up, which is what it ended up being.
And what is that the symbol that the Deathly Hallows was inspired by? What does that symbol represent? Sort of, what is the story behind it?
It's an all-seeing eye in the center, and then you have a set square. So the Masons do link themselves on with the original Craft Guild of Masonry, and the building of the temple in Jerusalem. So the Mason, how you build, so it's a set square that you're building, and then it's a sort of another building tool at the bottom. So these were Masonic, as it were, literal Mason marks that they then would wear secretly, or put on jewellery or things, just like Xenophilius does. So then other Masons would know they were Masons by seeing the symbol.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of a compass at the top, and that sort of forms the triangle of that. Yeah,
that's right. So a compass and a set square. So that it's more of a square, but it's quite a triangular square, if that makes sense. And she just sort of simplified that down into a specific triangle. And then they do also other symbols. There is a plumb line where it goes the depth, so that sort of that straight down line of the Elder Wand is also a Masonic symbol, although it's not involved in that the one that's in the film, which is this triangular one with an eye in the center.
I think it's interesting, like, you know, in the Hallmarked Man, with this sort of masonry, like, it is something that is both tied into, like, it is the secret society that is talked about as both being kind of spiritual or, like, quasi-religious, but also, like, just, like, it's also more practical of the just, like, this social thing of people coming together and enjoying, you know, spending time with each other, etc. And there seems to be a certain self-consciousness that we see among some of them, like Hardacre, where, like, Strike is sort of making fun of the more spiritual parts, and Hardacre is clearly, like, kind of defensive of it, kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah,
like,
he's defensive.
Doesn't want
to. I did like that scene. So Hardacre is obviously sort of a straight bloke, straight lesbian, but he does believe this stuff. But I did think that scene was very effective because it showed us the things, and we had Strike's obvious. We knew Strike was going to be doubtful about it, but it didn't mock it. We have Hardacre, who was a good face of masonry, and the sort of the fellowship, the charitable work. It worked well, I thought.
Yeah, and connecting it back to the Deathly Hallows, I think that we see within the wizarding world that the Deathly Hallows are also, like, even in a world of magic, the Deathly Hallows are treated as much more like, well, that's not something that people should really, practical people don't actually believe in this. Like, that there is something a bit more spiritual and religious about the Deathly Hallows, and we see that in the way that, like, Harry does become Master of Death, but in this way that is more of, like, a spiritual, like, he is accepting death, and he is, like, it's like a sort of spiritual purification moment of him, like, dying, coming back to life, so there is...
Yes, absolutely, that's right, a deeper magic, basically, yes, that it links in with spiritual ideas.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah, and that we see that most of the people in Wizarding Society are sort of like, well, that's only something that crazy people like Xenophilius Lovegood actually believe in, but,
like, it's a nice story that we read to children. Yeah.
It also fits with the way that Masons, it's not a religious faith. You can be of any religious faith. You have to believe in a higher being of some kind, but any religious faith can join, and as Rowling has pointed out, Catholics are not allowed to join by the Catholic Church, but it's not that Masons won't accept Catholics, it's that's the other way around, and that fits quite well, doesn't it, with the idea that sort of, she said elsewhere that Dumbledore is Christian, and we see him choosing these biblical quotations for the tombstone.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that sense within the books that Dumbledore is Christian, although it's never explicitly said. But we also have Xenophilius Lovegood, who's obviously not Christian, he's kind of crazy spiritual. But they're all, they both believe in the Deathly Hallows. They're both sort of different types of faith can meet in this belief.
Yeah, and that we see that Harry, like, he searches for the Deathly Hallows, but he sort of claims to be searching for those hollows for a more practical purpose of sort of, he's sort of saying, like, I don't believe that having all of them makes you Master of Death, but, or like, he does and he won't admit it.
Well, he sort of does, and it takes him over for a bit, doesn't it? And then he has to kind of reject that, but come at it in a different, more spiritual way. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah, it's interesting in both of these worlds. There's, like, the practical and the spiritual coming together, and some people are more willing to admit to one or the other, but, like, within sort of most of society, it would be seen as kind of ridiculous to say that you believe in the more spiritual aspect of it.
And I suppose Semple becomes a sort of Xenophilius Lovegood figure in that we don't know exactly what's going on with him, but he goes a bit crazy, and then he gets very interested in Masonic stuff when he goes a bit crazy. So the symbolism is kind of draws in the mentally unstable, which is a sort of Crumple and Snorkack aspect in the Muggle world, as it were.
Yeah, and we have kind of Strike Stripe doesn't really believe that someone who's practical and like, intelligent like Semple would believe in this stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good thing. It absolutely does. Yeah.
And I think we see with like Hermione,
Yeah.
like Hermione doesn't believe that Dumbledore could possibly be like telling Harry to look for these things that seem like.
So Strike's got a Hermione moment there. Yes.
It's like the people that they admire, they assume are like them and therefore practical and
But again, that just would have been nice to have a little bit more of Semple's story so that we could have that same idea that there is some truth to what he's looking for, or we didn't have enough of that. And did anyone else find it weird, this thing where she said, meet me at the Golden Fleece, and they just seem to keep behaving as if they had no way of finding, like, well, you're obviously looking for a pub called the Golden Fleece. That seems to be obvious, and I don't know whether they just kept not doing that.
They did, but they couldn't find it.
They did eventually.
But they were looking in Scotland.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because she had a Scottish accent, I suppose. But they just said, well, there aren't any Golden Fleeces in Scotland, so that's the end of that, rather than, well, there's 3 in England, maybe it's one of those, so we should bring up the pub landlord and find out.
Yeah.
But again, that was a lovely bit of symbolism. The Golden Fleece obviously is an absolute central mythological symbol involved in masonry and all kinds of those sort of. And again, it was really fun that she sort of put this in, but just as a pub name, which obviously we've had before with things like the White Horse and stuff, where ancient myth exists in modern England via pub names.
Yeah.
Was the Golden Fleece something in Jason and the Argonauts? Weren't they looking?
That's right. That's what they're searching for. Exactly.
Fleece?
So it is. That's what Jason is doing. He has to get the Golden Fleece and bring it back. And then in alchemical imagery, that becomes that story is sort of seen as a myth about the quest for the gold in alchemy. So it's been taken in alchemical ways. But it's an ancient
it's
myth.
part of the Cupid and Psyche myth too, right?
Yes.
It's one of Psyche's tasks. Is
it is, yes.
Gold.
We've noticed that with the Psyche tweet. Like, ooh. So I hope that's going to come back more, having come back in this rather frustrating way in which they're just not taking it seriously in this one. So we'll see.
Yeah, we also saw, I noticed, like, in the Masonic Temple, there was a flag with a lion on it. And we'd also been seeing some lion imagery in the previous books leading up to this. And so that was also an interesting, like, I don't know what it means yet, but there seems to be a nod to, like,
this one. Yeah, absolutely. And this one also, so there's lions on the Sark flag. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's this child called Lion, like really rubbing our face in it. Yeah. And people were
Sorry, it's obviously about Gryffindor. I'm not sure what we're discussing here.
why anyone else's thing? Well, it is kind of this Rokeby. So Rokeby's a Leo. I think Strike and Eloquent Files are the first person people to sort of point that out. So they were always like this lion, which obviously we've had since Ink Black Heart with the lion on Wimwell's tomb. We're sort of keeping promised more lions, but they really were everywhere in this one.
Yeah.
So whether that was all partly just a little joke about Rokeby's coming, I don't know whether we'll carry on.
I feel like there's something more. Like, I don't know if it's in masonry or some other, like, alchemy or symbol. Like
it is again.
Yeah.
So as with Gryffindor, that sort of the red and gold lion is absolutely, it's a traditional bestiary symbol for Christ. It's a really major Christ symbol, which is why Aslan is a lion.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like unicorns and phoenixes where we all know it's a Christ symbol as much, but it was just as big a one in medieval times. So Aslan is where it exists in modern knowledge. But it is one of those absolutely important in alchemy, important in masonry.
And what do you all think of the symbolism of that cross Masonic charm on the charm bracelet? I was really curious about that.
So they seem really common. So just Google, as I'm sure lots of Strike fans have done, is Googling for this articulated orb Masonic. There seem to be dozens of them. You can buy them on Etsy, eBay. They seem to be everywhere. And they can have different Masonic symbols. So Bea mentioned the plumb line and, of course, the set square and the compass, but also the death's head as a sort of memento mori and all kinds of different Masonic signs.
But we're always looking for little Christian symbols, aren't we? That Karen's always had the big moment, which we were all, I felt was where it had all been pointing was the church scene in the previous novel. But it was nice to have a little one, that one of the things in his beautiful symbol of love that was the most entirely positive thing in this entire novel did include a cross. So I did really like that.
That's interesting. Like, I wonder if it's meant to be a parallel to the church scene. The
when she finally,
she finally
puts it on.
He has this sort of moment of realization there, and sort of letting go of the past, and she has. I mean, not quite letting go of the past, but she has a big moment there where she, like, sees the bracelet and it's like, oh my god, I'm still in love with him, you know?
Yeah, she does, absolutely. And it's the only time she really acknowledges that. Again, she paddles back a bit from it, doesn't it? And saying, I love it. And you're like, well, that's not really what you said when you saw it. You said, I love you. I love him.
At least it wasn't a thinks knows. It wasn't a...
No, because in this case, she does know. Yeah. We're back to the no, it's not. No. Anyway, yeah. But yes, it'll be lovely when she does finally put it on.
Yeah. Well, we'll probably talk more about this, or I know we're going to talk more about this, but there are a lot of Troubled Blood parallels in this book, and also some parallels to Order of the Phoenix. And I think, we were talking about how the masonry was mainly used sort of as a bit of a red herring in this book, which is kind of like the astrology in Troubled Blood, because the astrology, you could have the same book without the astrology. The astrology had more of the symbolism and like the symbolic, like it brought something in to the story less plot-wise and more in the symbolism. And to me, this kind of just, it felt similar to what we see in Order of the Phoenix, because Order of the Phoenix has a really unusual plot in that the whole, like, focus of the plot is Voldemort trying to get this prophecy, the Order of the Phoenix trying to stop him from getting the prophecy, Voldemort trying to get Harry to get the prophecy, Harry trying to stop him from getting the prophecy. Like, it's all about the prophecy. And then we hear the prophecy, and it's news to Harry, but it's not, like, if Voldemort heard it, nothing would happen. Like, it would give him no real new information. And so many fans have thought that, the whole prophecy plot was really a red herring on Dumbledore's part. That Dumbledore was sort of trying to get Voldemort to focus all of his attentions on getting this prophecy rather than building his army, etc. And by putting so much attention on the prophecy and safeguarding the prophecy, it made Voldemort think, oh, this prophecy is so important, so Voldemort put all of his attention towards it. So that the prophecy itself is kind of a red herring on its own. I'm curious what you guys think of that.
But yes, I think I think it's definitely the case that she does this. She brings in. I think it's exactly right. It's like the astrology, that there are clues and there are things going on, but it's basically to bring a sort of spiritual, symbolic dimension in. And the prophecy did that. It felt important without, as you say, actually doing very much. But I suppose we don't have a Dumbledore anymore. We only, so it's down to them, Rowling. And so it's just a red herring for us, really. I feel the Masonic stuff.
Except I feel it's less disappointing than the Masons are in the Hallmarked Man. I don't think astrology is particularly disappointing because of how, I don't know, maybe it's because...
Yeah, it wasn't disappointing, no, because it was always set up as, this person's crazy.
Yeah.
He's gone crazy and trying to work out his messaging, but yeah.
Yeah, but still there was something actually in it, which I thought was a fun twist.
It was. And we didn't really, unless I'm missing, so I don't think we didn't have that. There wasn't something in it.
No, not really. I didn't think there was enough of it to really get anything out of it that way.
There was something in it in that it led to the whole Oliver Bramford So like they solved a mystery that they were never expecting to solve with the whole Oliver Bramford drama.
Yeah, but that wasn't really Masonic. Do you just mean because the cipher was called a Masonic cipher?
Wasn't it, and maybe I misunderstood, but wasn't it that the sort of focus on Masonry, like he thought, like wasn't the, like didn't the red herring sort of make him concerned about? Maybe I misunderstood.
Yes, no, I think that's right. So he believed that the body was Victor Leon.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the covering, the Masonry cover-up, I think that was more the policeman. So Branford knew that it was nothing to do with Masonry because he just thought it was his hitman.
Oh no, he knew that.
Killing you off.
But
They were both members of the same lodge, weren't they? Branford and the detective.
Yeah,
they were
so they were
members of the same
connected.
lodge.
But I feel it's not. I don't know. I just feel it's not the symbolic side of Masonry. Yes, it meant these people are involved with each other. The policeman,
Yeah.
but that doesn't have any sort of. Whereas what Semple was looking for could have had something a bit more symbolic and a bit more sort of fundamental. But it didn't.
Right. It was more practical. Like it was more like
There was something about the secret passage, wasn't there? That meant there was a little bit of a gap, which where the silver could be held. So again, that has sort of.
That's true.
It did have something, but I felt they downplayed it so much as to saying, "Oh no, obviously there's a connection." It didn't quite have the satisfaction, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you're so right, because I think Semple was in Hallmarked Man was as, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name, the detective in The Troubled Blood that did all the astrology stuff.
Talbot.
Yeah, him. Talbot. Sorry.
Yeah.
Talbot, yes. But because we're at such a remove from Semple for so long, we're not really get enough of any of that. And we don't really get enough of Strike and Robin trying to puzzle it out, because they spend quite a lot of time in Troubled Blood looking at all of this stuff and thinking about it and trying to figure it out. So we never really get into it. We don't really get into the core of the stuff.
No, that's right. So he did leave a clue, and the clue did relate to the Masonic. The numbers were related to the Masonic things, weren't they?
Yeah.
But I just felt we just didn't really know what was going on there. So it didn't. It's like we were talking about Robin being from her perspective,
Yes,
Joan's death,
yes,
and Strike's
I think
perspective. We were just a bit too removed.
You know what?
from
I think I understand now what I'm disappointed about. I think I just wanted to learn more about Masons through this book, and I don't think I got enough of it. And that's probably what I was looking for. I just some kind of fun, obscure details. I know I can go and look it up, but it's not the same. It's not the same.
No.
Yeah.
Well, we had those Twitter headers of the Temple 17 in there,
Yeah.
and like, and everyone was so interested in finding what is this going to mean, and it meant absolutely nothing, right? I mean, it was just a lie.
Yeah.
He said.
So you thought that Todd didn't even know he didn't even go there, and Todd was just lying. I don't know. Do we know that, or do we?
I think that's at one point Strike speculated there that Todd had just told him that he had gone into the temple and was specifically interested in Temple 17 for this reason, and that was
randomly
just
chosen.
Means like kind of like Janice, some of her things were throwing some things in there to specifically mislead them.
Right, yeah, just throwing some stuff out. Yeah, but Tyler, it wasn't totally made up, because Tyler Powell, so we did have a thing that he was mentioned. He did go there because they said that was sort of, he got interested in the Masons because he thought they might protect him. So he was looking for a sort of strong
he's interested
protective.
in the Masons, but I don't think he was ever interested in Temple 17.
Yeah, and that again, that felt a bit, I felt a little bit trolled with that, because she was obviously, there's the swan, she wanted us to spot that and get all excited about it, and then it didn't mean anything as far as I could see. I don't know if anyone else felt it.
I mean, Temple 17 itself would have been an unlikely location for Tyler's first lodge. I mean, because this is where extremely old, very well-established lodges meet, they're unlikely to.
Right. They wouldn't accept him.
No.
See, that's why I think it would have been fun if Strike tried to join the lodge, because then we would have all of this. Which lodge does he go for that's close enough to where he needs to be, but that he's actually likely to be accepted? What kind of persona he has to assume? That might have not worked because people know what he looks like, but it could have been interesting.
It would have been different because they already, they'd spotted him, and they Brownford had spotted him, so I think he would have.
Unless he just went as himself with Hardacre, and he's just, you know what, I'm Cormoran Strike.
Change of heart.
And I would like to become a Mason, please. Please, can I become one of you guys?
But yeah, I agree. It's always, one of the things I love about the Strike fandom is discovering all these new things and learning about them. And it doesn't feel learned that much. There were some things when we saw a number of Masonic symbols and things, and we had our Hardacre taking us through. So there wasn't nothing, but I definitely don't feel, I've got to go and learn about Masonry stuff now, because I just don't think it's very relevant to the plot.
Mm-hmm. And we know now if we want to kill one, we need that big silver thing that looks like a toilet plunger. That that's the best. that's the best weapon.
The set square, the compass, the toilet plunger.
There was one part that I found really interesting as potentially a meta commentary, and I think it'd be fun to look at this both in connection to Harry Potter and Cormoran Strike, where they quote from the Morals and Dogma book. And I might just read out all of these questions and answers about the different numbers, and then if anyone has any that you're like, this feels like it fits for book 4, book 5, or whatever of either of the series, we can discuss that. But, okay, so first question. What is the generative number? Answer. In the divinity, it is the unit. In created things, the number 2. Because the divinity, 1, engenders 2, and in created things, 2 engenders 1. I don't know what that means. Okay. What is the most majestic number? Answer. 3, because it denotes the triple divine essence. Question. What is the most mysterious number? Answer. 4, because it contains all the mysteries of nature. What is the most occult number? 5, because it is enclosed in the center of the series. What is the most salutary number? 6, because it contains the source of our spiritual and corporeal happiness. What is the most fortunate number? 7, because it leads us to the decade, the perfect number. What is the number most to be desired? 8, because he who possesses it is of the number of the plus and sages. Which is the most sublime number? 9, because by it religion and nature are exalted. Which is the most perfect number? 10, because it includes unity, which created everything, and 0, symbol of matter and chaos, whence everything emerged.
So I've got two thoughts. The first thought is this is pure arithmancy. And second thought is if you gaze above in the night sky now, you might just see a comet passing through the House of Bollocks.
Okay, so if we think about this less from the Masonic side and more from J.K. Rowling's perspective as potentially commentary about her work.
I think it's very hopeful, isn't it, for 9 and 10?
Yeah.
I'm feeling now we've now got a series follow the full decade. This is very hopeful. So I think we can all gain some. It's all going to get sort of sublime and magnificent, and definitely everyone coming together in 9 and 10.
Well, we do need a bit of hope, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
I find that the number 7 interesting. So if we imagine that as the running grave, it leads us to the decade, the perfect number. And I do think, we've talked a lot about the running grave as, the book of changes, and I think hopefully when we have 8, 9, and 10, we'll see how 7 has set in motion all of the things needed to bring us to 10. I also think 5 is really interesting for both series. What is the most occult number? Because I think both Order of the Phoenix and Troubled Blood are the most occult books. Order of the Phoenix with the prophecy and Troubled Blood with all the astrology. And
Would you say prophecies are particularly occult?
this is more connecting back to, I would say yes, kind of, but it is a type of mysticism in, like, even within the wizarding world, prophecies are something that, like, not everyone believes, or like, or at least, you know, with people like Professor Trelawney, there are other people who are like, is she really, she just seems sort of mystical and, like, it's not as practical as other parts of, and not as precise as other parts of magic. So I would say so. But also I think it connects to what we talked about before in one of our other episodes about Book 5 sort of being a prophecy for what's to come in Book 7, and that there is sort of a mystical nature to the Book 5s on their own. Like, there is something about the Book 5s that is kind of mystical and prophetic.
The only thing that jumps out at me is with number 9, by religion and nature are exalted. The only thing I thought of there was that picture of the treehouse that we've seen in the Twitter header for Book 9. And it's like, okay, there's nature. What's going to be out in the treehouse? That's the only thing I could come up with.
That's interesting. Also, for Hallmarked Man, just the question, which is the number most to be desired? I feel like there's a lot of desire and thwarted desire in this book, so I don't understand the answer about the number of the plus and sages, but this is definitely a book with a lot of desire in it.
And they clearly don't understand each other at all most of the time, so I guess that tracks.
Yes.
Well, if you look this up in the original Morals and Dogma book, if you go to like the few pages before this list of question and answers, there's a very detailed explanation that makes these answers make a little more sense. Like, I only skimmed through it, but it mentioned, for instance, for 3, it said, the 3 you've got in religion, you have the Holy Trinity, and then in science you have the laws of motion, the 3 laws of motion. So that's how those two connect, and connecting the spiritual world with the material world, but with both of these 3s. So that there's a lot of information like that may make some of this. So before trying to hook this up with any of the Strike books, I would want to go back and read those explanations first.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, unfortunately, we don't have time for that on this podcast, but if anyone wants to write an article about it, please do. I'd be curious to read it.
Just on the perfection of the number 5, I haven't worked out yet, but I was very, some things I really, so we haven't talked about the epigraphs at all yet, and that was something I really enjoyed. And I did notice that there are 5 epigraph sources, and there are 5 possible identities for William Wright, and 2 of them fit very clearly. So there's the Scottish Freemason, who fits with our Scottish Freemason. So Semple is the Masonic text, and then obviously De Leon from Sark is the Sark text. So having seen those 2, I did think, I expect the others will fit out, and so thinking that Browning might be Powell.
Well, one of them wrote a book called The Shropshire Lad, right?
Yeah, Houseman. Yeah.
So that was Houseman, and so could that connect to Powell?
Umbridge.
Yeah. So that could only be the last. I was thinking Browning because he is famously sort of happily married, so that there is a sort of a sense of that that what we discover is actually Powell is a really good boyfriend who is, making a massive effort to bring up the child of a ghastly man because his girlfriend is pregnant by him and all that. So he's doing something deeply romantic and deeply honourable. But yeah, may well be the choice of his locations. We have got that with Scotland and Sark being location ones. So maybe Powell is Shropshire. But I haven't really managed with the others bit. But I did notice these 2 5s in the novel, which I thought was really fun.
Speaking of the epigraphs, we also have Merope come up.
Yes,
which
yes,
I think is kind of a connection to the Deathly Hallows.
Yes, absolutely.
To Harry Potter in general.
So it is a slightly disappointing one in that it's a different person. So the Merope in Harry Potter is the one of the 7 daughters, one of the Pleiades, because she is the one who marries. The Pleiades are the 7 stars, and one of them is very faint. So in mythology, she married a human and is sort of ashamed of that, and so she darkens herself. She puts a veil on. So that fits brilliantly with Merope marrying a Muggle and being sort of rejected as a result. Whereas the one in the epigraphs, this one is a different Merope, who's the Queen of Messina, possibly, but anyway, she's the wife of a king who's forced to marry his murderer, and then she helps her son take revenge on that murderer. So Louise, very much the sort of soap opera type myth. Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
So they're very different characters.
Very different.
So she's Browning thought it would be a great topic for a tragedy.
Well, I mean, if anyone she connects to, it seems to be Chloe, because she was forced to marry
her mother,
the man that killed her husband. Chloe was forced to be the child of the man who killed her mother.
Yes, I know. She doesn't know that yet. So there is all this. There's definitely, we have a number of Oedipus echoes throughout the whole novel, and we've got sort of Charlotte sort of excited by the idea that she might be related to Strike. It's one of her Charlotte is crazy moments. But yeah, there's a number of Oedipus moments that give us this idea of obviously the Decima storyline. But then it is perhaps more relevant for the Chloe storyline than we had realized. I think fitting in with these very disturbing ancient myths where this kind of thing happens. It's definitely an underlying aspect of how she's using myth in this novel.
And I think using that same name, just the name Merope, is a fun nod for the readers, because
no, absolutely. You go, yay! Like Rowena in the previous one. You go, yay! And just incidentally, there's another Merope is the adoptive mother.
Oh gosh, there's three of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
There is even more than 3, extraordinarily, but I did wonder whether she's getting us to look up the Merope, and then we find out, that this is she does.
So at least 3 different Meropes. Okay.
Yeah. There's another one who's marries Orion. So yeah, there's 4.
And there's that big breakthrough in the story at the end with understanding that a name might mean something different, or so yes, I think it's a fun
the name means
to
purple,
think okay, this name is coming up but it means something different in different contexts. And
speaking of names, what's with all the Margarets? Because we've got Leda's, I can't believe nobody mentioned this yet, we know Leda's birth name now. Her name is Peggy.
Yes.
I can see why she changed it to Leda. But Peggy is is that the right way to say it? Diminutive of Margaret.
Yep.
And so is Margot, which is kind of a...
and so is Marguerite.
So is Marguerite. Yeah. So there's so many. So there is kind of a connection to Troubled Blood through Margot. And I'm not sure what Marguerite is doing there either. But yeah, it's... I wonder if that's significant that she was called Peggy and then she chose Leda. I haven't really given it a huge amount of thought yet, but it was one of those small bits that are kind of like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was really fun, wasn't it? We didn't get Shanker's real name yet, but we got a real name we were not expecting.
It's going to be John.
On the names, I found a really fun one, a really fun name collection with Harry Potter, which is quite obscure, but when he drives to Temple Ewell at the beginning, where Decima is, so that's kind of fun because Temple in name means that it was the Knights Templars were there, so that's kind of cool in itself. It was owned by Bishop Odo, who's a half brother of William the Conqueror, and I can't ever hear about Bishop Odo without thinking Odo the hero, which I'm really fond of as a son.
That's really funny.
Okay, I don't know Star Trek, but I just think that you must name Odo the hero after Bishop Odo because there's just so few of them. But yeah, it was a fun little.
I was thinking Odo in Star Trek, but
why she knows, because it is a disturbing myth, the later myth.
But I'm hoping we'll find out something about Peggy / Leda.
Yeah. So Louise, I think you had some Order of the Phoenix connections that you wanted to share.
Yes, of course. I was incredibly excited to see all the Order of the Phoenix connections because, one of the things, I've been saying for a while now is that I think it's useful to look at the last 7 of these books, 4 through 10, as their own 7-part ring. So this is what I call the double wedding band model, where you have 2 overlapping 7-part rings making up a 10-book series. And so, people have been saying, okay, well, what's going to happen to these Harry Potter parallels once we run out of Harry Potter books and we've hit book 8? And so this was my way of sort of solving that problem. It's like, okay, we're just going to back up, and now we're at number 5, so we're going to see Order of the Phoenix parallels. And that happened. I mean, I may be biased. I may be seeing what I expect to see, but you have, a secret society at the heart of the story, even connecting to the title, with that hallmark carved into the man was Masonic. So you've got, the Masons as one secret society, and you've got the Order of the Phoenix as another. You've got the media trying to discredit the hero through misleading and false news stories. And so the hero actually had to contact another journalist and get them to print the truth, just like Harry and Hermione basically had to seek out Rita Skeeter and get her to print the correct story to get the truth out there, which I thought that was exciting.
Yeah, and I definitely noticed that right away, the sort of connection of our protagonists being, slandered in the media. And I think it's interesting because in both books, like, the negative media attention actually starts in the book before. So we saw sort of the seeds of this in The Running Grave.
I thought that was a great observation.
And then in Goblet of Fire is when Harry first starts getting that negative media attention. And in both cases, it really starts as gossip stories. It's like, it originally comes across as like, yeah, like, nobody wants to have these gossip stories about them, but like, we have gotten past them. It's, it's not treated as, at first, that big of a deal. It's like Harry's love life is being talked about, Strike's love life is being talked about, and they get past it. But then we see, in both cases, in the next book, we have someone who actively wants to discredit our protagonist for unrelated reasons, to what they're writing about. And they build off of those existing gossip stories to try to smear the protagonist's reputation, and they really don't care about the truth as long as they accomplish their aims. And I think it's really interesting, like, showing how over time, and starting in just tiny ways, a negative media attention can really snowball. So once your reputation starts to be tarnished, it's really hard to recover, and that any disreputable person can use that to their advantage. Yeah, I think it's a really striking similarity between the two books.
And Yeah, I mean, I think those are great. I hadn't caught on to the where the seeds started, but you're absolutely right, and I think that's really cool. So we also had the death of the only father figure that the hero ever knew, with Ted dying and Sirius dying. And even better, I thought we learned more about Ted that makes him actually seem more like Sirius. So we learned that he hated his father and left home and only came back after his father was dead. Ted was described as breaking the pattern of abuse and alcoholism that had run in his family for decades. Well, Sirius, of course, broke that pattern of greed and pureblood supremacy that ran in the Blacks. He was the Gryffindor among the Slytherins, in that family. They also, although we didn't spend a lot of time there, we were told that Strike and Lucy had a long, difficult task cleaning out the family home, which was not unlike the cleaning out of Grimmauld Place. Though we had a contrast in that Lucy wanted to keep everything, and of course Sirius wanted to get rid of everything. So a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah.
But
Strike is sort of the opposite. He doesn't want to keep that many things, and Harry also, we have cleaning out Grimmauld Place while Sirius is still alive, but then we also have after Sirius dies, how do the people who inherit that house treat what's in it? And in the Strike series, it's like Strike is doesn't care as much about, he only has a few things he cares about. Lucy wants everything. Harry is kind of in both places at once, where he doesn't care about any of the heirlooms, but once Mundungus is stealing them, then he cares a lot and is really angry. So it's he kind of encapsulates both of those reactions to that grief in one.
Yeah.
Speaking of angry, both Strike and Robin are kind of quite angry and miserable in Hallmarked Man. So are we having Capslock Robin or Capslock Strike or both at different times?
I think we definitely had Capslock Robin a while, but one other thing before, in fact, I've got a lot to say about that too, but one other thing I wanted to point out before we go on to there is that we also, once Strike loses his surrogate father, he has his first meeting then with his biological father, and the biological father turns out has a connection to Sirius as well, and that he rebelled against his father. He left home and was disowned, it sounds like, when he was underage, and was taken in by his best friend's family, just like Sirius was taken in by the Potters.
Yeah.
So I really love that connection of the fatherhood themes in both books. But
what's really interesting, sorry, I just realized that Harry, all throughout the first 5 books, thinks that his father was a great guy, and then has this moment towards the end of the 5th book of realizing that his father was not as great as he thought, and has that big reckoning with that. And then Strike kind of has the opposite, where he hates his father so much, and then in the 5th book, sorry, not the 5th book, but in what we are calling the 5th book in this case, in this book,
Phoenix Connection,
he has that moment of being wow, I guess he wasn't as bad as I thought he was. He's more complicated. In both cases, it's they see their father in a more complicated light. It's just in one case, and
in both cases, a more accurate light, isn't it? They are both seeing them more accurately.
Yeah. And there was that idea. I mean, Roteby sort of sounded like Lupin was when he was talking about James. It's yes, I mean, he was young and he did stupid things then, but that doesn't mean he couldn't move past it. And of course, that's what Roteby was saying too. He says, I behaved horribly. But I want to make up for it now. I want to, we do stupid things when we're young and we grow out of them. So yeah,
and I think what's really interesting is that the difference in between Harry and Strike's ages, I think, really affect how they respond to that, because Harry's response, like, because Lupin and Sirius are like, well, he was 15, you know, like, people do dumb things, and Harry's like, I'm 15, like, I'm better than that, you know. Harry doesn't have that perspective, because he's living it right then, even though he's made his own mistakes, you know. But for Strike, I think he's at a very different time in his life where he can have that perspective and be like, yeah, I actually know that there are plenty of things from my past that I would do differently now, you know?
Well, and, you know, he never thinks it, I don't think, but it's absolutely, he did almost father a child with a woman he hated in this book. So that really should give him extreme softness towards Rigby. You realise you can do an idiotic thing. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's a slightly different thing, but just think, to me, the thing that this book really reminded me of was Deathly Hallows, and the thing that reminded me about Deathly Hallows of the book was the incredible number of callbacks to all previous books in the series.
Yes.
So it did have that sort of final book of the series feel to it, which is funny because obviously we know it isn't, but this is the book where that's happened, and it was extraordinary how many callbacks. It was just continuous.
It's a curious place to put a clip show, isn't it? Right in the middle of a series.
Yeah, it is. So I'm hoping, obviously, that point, this is a sign that 9 and 10 are going to be a change, that we might actually get them, you know, so this is Cloud Cuckoo Land, but they might get together at the beginning of 9 and we might actually have that.
I did wonder, with all the bridge symbolism in this book, if this is supposed to be some sort of infill between 1 to 7 and 9 and 10. She's getting us to a place that we need to be.
And the clip show aspect, as you call it, was so striking, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
But
So let's hope.
To me, it came across as like the past coming back to haunt them to a certain extent, of like having to face the past.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the Capslocks. All right, yeah. I mean,
emo.
I think that was
the passive-aggressive version of
Yeah. I mean, we have the protagonist being, you know, atypically hostile, angry, depressed throughout the book, but both Harry and I'm thinking particularly of Robin here is, you know, part of this because they lose so many important things. I mean, Harry, you know, he feels like Umbridge is taking everything from him. He's lost his visits with Hagrid. He loses Quidditch. He loses access to his broom. He loses his ability to communicate with Sirius. He's loses his trust in Dumbledore because Dumbledore's avoiding him. Well, Robin loses Roundtree. She loses the Land Rover. She loses her confidence in Strike. She loses her ability to have children. And, you know, by the end, she's really lost her ability to do her job. I mean, she's sidelined again because of these threats out there. I was very tempted to say that maybe Robin found the prospect of cohabitating and marrying Murphy as aversive as Harry found the occlumency lessons with Snape. But
well, there is that tiny shining shackle.
Yeah.
You look at the engagement ring and think of shackle. That is, your psychologist is trying quite hard to tell you something.
Well, that may be a bit harsh, even for Murphy. I mean, Robin at least convinced herself she loved Murphy, which is something Harry did not do with Snape.
He didn't do a lot of things with Snape that Robin does with Murphy. So.
this is true.
Only in fanfic.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think that, honestly, I think that so many of the problems going on in the book could have been solved with some more Capslock Robin, as in she was having all of these feelings inside her. If she had just had a bit more yelling.
A bit of shouting. So to me, again, just with the Deathly Hallows, this end feel of this book, which I did feel very strongly at the end feel that was the lack of the losing his faith in Dumbledore.
Oh, and we're going to get to that later.
Strike.
So I have a section on that later. So let's save that. Yeah.
Okay. So we also had, you know, Harry worrying that his mental link with Voldemort was a weakness or a vulnerability that would let, you know, the Dark Lord get to his friends and get to the Order. And Robin had that, you know, horrible moment when Strike said, "You're the weak link for this agency." So there's lots of angst about that for both Harry and Robin.
There's a Christmas carols thing, which obviously that is quite important throughout Harry Potter, but there's definitely a lovely Christmas carols, with Sirius singing God Rest You Merry Hippogriffs. And that was one of the only sort of, again, this is the first time Christmas has had any Christian symbolism, I think, in the Strike series, which it absolutely carries in the Harry Potter series. But I noticed with there's a number of the songs are just general, but I felt the Three Ships Come Sailing In one. That is a very Christian one, and it's not just Christian, it's mysterious. They're sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning. They're carrying his Saviour Christ and his lady. They're going to Bethlehem. So Christ is going to Bethlehem to be married. It's a very mysterious carol. And one of the ways people have sort of read it is with link to possibly, so there's lots of quite wild symbolism, but I love the idea that it's sort of linked with this 3 ships carrying the relics of the biblical Magi to Cologne Cathedral is one sort of idea of it. And again, that sort of works with this, them carrying precious cargo, the silver Neff ship. That was a nice moment with symbolism sort of coming together in this one.
That's beautiful. I just on the point of Capslock Harry and italicized Capslock Robin and manipulative Strike, they're all acting atypically. They're all under psychological pressure. But there's one advantage Robin at least has over both Harry and Strike is she's about to start seeing sweary therapist.
Yay!
So I'm
a big plus in this book. So finally, sweary therapist. We love it. And everyone's really looking forward to that. Always.
No, Robin's not going to like it.
And it's so nice again.
She's not going to like it.
No, she is going to like it. It's going to be great. It's going to be, and again, with that Prudence, like Shankar being the person who gave the idea for the bracelet, that Prudence is the person who's bringing the sweary therapist into Robin's life. I really like that.
Well, so my first impression of Kim Cochran was that she was going to be a female Saul Morris in terms of, her effect. And I argued back in Troubled Blood that Morris was the Troubled Blood equivalent to Umbridge. So I think that makes us naturally look to Kim as an Umbridge figure. She certainly had Umbridge's bossiness, disruptive tendencies, and, like Umbridge, eventually just comes across as totally evil. And
I love this, Louise, so much. As soon as I saw that you'd written that, I thought that's just brilliant. If there were kittens, I would have been there as well, but I completely missed it. But it's such a good reflection.
Well, I think we can be happy that Umbridge did not have Kim's habit of sending nudes.
Oh God!
There's that. Yeah.
But that does make me think. For both Kim and Umbridge, they kind of use their femininity as a sort of tool to their own aims, but in very different ways. So Umbridge is much more the sort of girlishness, trying to soften the effects of her cruelty. Whereas for Kim, it's more these sort of the nudes, the tight dresses, the flirtation. But in both cases, they really kind of use that to sort of manipulate people or get what they want.
And I suppose in both cases we feel the authorial dislike of femininity wielded as a weapon, don't we?
Yeah. It's also interesting with the Saul Morris comparison, like in both cases, they are really, like, that was my first thought too, is that they really are very similar to each other.
And they both send nudes,
both sending nudes, yeah. And in both cases, I think I was shocked they weren't fired way quicker,
the moment a nudist said, that's it, off you go.
Like, both of them act so unprofessionally. Yes. It's like... One thing you can say about Umbridge is that she would never let someone stay in their job if they were sending nudes at work.
No.
Umbridge would have, she'd have sacked them on the spot.
I don't think Umbridge would have sent some nudes to Fudge if she could.
Oh, God!
Well, I mean, she sucked up to Fudge,
Yeah.
Just like
well, we don't know.
Kim sucked up to Strike.
Yeah, we don't know. No, we don't know.
Well, she definitely had a thing for impressing Fudge, at least. But, and, while she was, playing footsie with him. She was dismissing and belittling the women, like Trelawney and McGonagall, just like, Kim comes in and she belittles Midge and she, disrespects Robin. But I thought it was very interesting that both of them get their comeuppance at the end in a way that superficially and initially looks very funny, very satisfying. We enjoy it. Umbridge getting carried away by the centaurs, Ron, making his clip-clop noises to startle her afterwards. And then, of course, Kim gets humiliated at the Goring restaurant, and Robin, says, is it wrong for me to enjoy this? And of course she does. But, in both cases, if you look a little closer, there are some very disturbing sexual overtones to those acts that should really make us uncomfortable. I mean, centaurs traditionally rape women they carry off. And so it's not going to be funny anymore if we have to start imagining even someone as evil as Umbridge getting, raped by a bunch of men that are literally hung like horses. And then, of course, Kim was filmed performing sex acts without her consent. And this is a very serious crime. It's a type of sexual assault.
I found that really odd because it was such a satisfying takedown of Branford,
Mm-hmm.
and it was such a satisfying takedown of Kim up to that point. You didn't need that. And again, so I like to think that Robin is not enjoying that aspect of it and is simply enjoying the besting. But I agree, it gave it this very uncomfortable
But again,
side.
when you get into what Strike is saying to her, he says if she doesn't fall into line and keep her mouth shut, he's going to use all of this. And he says he doesn't care if it's true or not, as long as it does what he wants. And that has now, as Sophia putting it out, that's put him back in the same category with Fudge and Culpepper. I don't care what's true.
Again, I was, I think I'm alone, because everyone just hates Kim so much. But I was also extremely disturbed by the way he treated her when they came, when her ex-boyfriend had just committed suicide. I don't really care what else she does in that scene. You can't be unkind to her. I mean, obviously you can absolutely say we're not going out, but you don't say what Strike said to her. She's not just performing vulnerability. This is a very serious life moment to just discover someone you have loved has committed suicide, and it's not a moment to score points. I was again uncomfortable with that.
Although she is being extremely manipulative in that moment.
Yeah.
No, she is, absolutely. She's being appalling, but that doesn't mean you can just treat her as if she's just being appalling in a normal situation.
Yeah, I think that in general, in different parts of Rowling's work, I think we see a vindictiveness towards people who we're not supposed to like as characters. Like, I think we see Hermione do this with Marietta. We see her, like, she blackmails Rita Skeeter. To me, it felt similar.
I suppose it's this real world side, isn't it? That the revenge taken against Rita Skeeter and Marietta is a magical revenge, and so it just doesn't feel quite the same as sex crime based revenge or suicide one.
I think that, I mean, to be honest, I found this uncomfortable. I also found the treatment of what's his name, Little John, in the last book uncomfortable, and I think there is this sort of a betrayal. Like, if someone betrays you, like, if they're supposed to be on your side and they betray you, and I think we see that with Marietta too, that if there's a betrayal, then it's kind of like the gloves are off, like you are being taken down, and that makes me uncomfortable, but I think it's it's not uncommon.
The Marietta one, I've always said, I've said this to Irvin before, this is pointless. She's already betrayed them. So what you do is you tell them before they betray you that now they've signed the thing, they will get punished if they betray. But, punishment
it's
following...
purely vindictive.
Yeah, it's just vindictive and it achieves nothing. So it's A bit weird.
Well, Hermione was still an amateur at that point. Maybe if she was older, she would have done it differently. It's her first time, her first secret society. We need to cut her some slack
Yeah,
there.
and well, she also wanted people to like her. As in, like, she wanted people to want to be on her side, and if she told them, yeah, that thing you just signed, if
But
you
what was
betray
the
us, you will
point?
get a...
But what was the? I just, it was pointless.
Yeah.
It didn't achieve anything. And all it did was have a piece of paper which they could then find and, completely be a disaster.
Yeah.
I
true.
think it's an interesting kind of combination of wanting to be liked and also needed to get the certain job done. So I think if Hermione was a little bit more, she knew a little bit more who she is as a person at that point, she could just draw a line and say, look, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it. If you are going to betray us, this is going to happen. But I don't think she has the kind of a moral fortitude at the time to do it directly.
But again, I suppose that's our difference, isn't it? We've now got fully adult heroes and we expect a bit more for them.
Yeah.
That would be different.
No. Okay, I have a hyper obscure Phoenix connection, which is the bust of Paracelsus. There's a bit in Phoenix when nearly headless Nick says, "Don't go this way." You know, Peeves is planning an amusing joke. The next person to pass gets the bust of Paracelsus on his head, and so that's one of those modes. Obviously, Paracelsus comes up at other times. He's in a chocolate frog card. We were talking about Fantastic Beasts. Newt swears by Paracelsus, which is kind of really fun because otherwise we just had some Merlin in that position. So it puts Paracelsus in this really high position, and Paracelsus turns up in epigraphs of this. So one is a Browning poem called Paracelsus. So that was another one where we're getting a little connection with a character who is he's a magical character in Harry Potter. He is an alchemist in reality. So that was fun, but I was also I want to just point out this is my one triumph generally with this book. We've all, I think, had a certain amount of failure of guessing, although Louise has had a lot more hits than most people. But this was my one that I had written a blog, and I hope you could put a connection to this blog as well underneath the Wyvern of Wye about this poem, which I wrote a while back. So I was really delighted to see it turning up in this. So I had written about Browning's Paracelsus, and the reason I knew she'd read it, and I just a little shout out here for the Rolling Library, which we're all really grateful for what they've done over the years, and I hope will continue to do. But the Rolling Library found a letter that came up for auction in 2014, in which someone had written to Rowling saying, "Why haven't you talked about wyverns?" And saying, some of them ended in Browning. And Rowling replied as Newt Scamander, saying, "The poet Browning's illusion had not escaped me." So that's a really obscure bit of Rowling. I'll show you just in this one letter, which no one would know about if he hadn't put it up for sale. So that's when I found out that she used this Paracelsus poem.
Oh, that's great.
It's really fun. It's one of these. I love the way she's planting this even stuff she could never expect anyone to ever see again. But the wyvern turns up in Secrets of Dumbledore as well. So that creature, I don't remember the one who carries Newt to safety at the beginning, that's sort of small and turns huge. The film doesn't tell us it's a wyvern, but the screenplay does say it's a wyvern. Yeah. So that's nice.
Okay.
Wow,
that's interesting.
Well, we mentioned this scene earlier when Robin gets called into the club to chat with Dino Lancaster, and that was a lot like Harry being summoned to Umbridge's office for questioning. You've got this despicable person in this over-decorated room. As Nick pointed out, there are no kittens, but we got dog pictures in this one, and an actual dog. So I think the dog prints and the ornamental white dog take the place of the kitten plates in Umbridge's office. And of course, he's insisting he have a drink and that type of stuff.
And it sort of emphasizes the opposite thing of the kitten plates of, we have the dogs in this scene, but also the dog fights, and it seems like kind of a symbol of like masculinity, especially in those dog fights. So it's kind of the opposite of Umbridge's office of like,
there's a absolutely performative masculinity to the performative feminine to the kittens, absolutely. And I mean, as we've touched on, this is a strikingly fatherhood based book, right down to its Shanker's dad who suggests the thing about the necklace. With all, so obviously all leading up to the fact we're going to meet Rokeby, but that's definitely a symbolic theme in the book.
And just, minor thing, you have Robin and Murphy have that fight on Valentine's Day, just like Carrie and Cho had a fight on Valentine's Day and when on their date. And Rowling must really hate Valentine's Day.
We're going to get a good one someday.
Day,
It's like we finally had some good Christmas. We'll have a good
Wasn't there a bit where Murphy is sobbing? Is that just like Cho sobbing at their Valentine's Day?
That's not on Valentine's Day.
No, that was when. That's not Valentine's. That's when she catches him drinking.
Oh yes, that's true.
And so no,
so
this
not quite on the same date.
They were like fighting.
Still,
he was like sending those passive aggressive texts and stuff like that because she was working and he wanted to. He was texting her at work, asking her how she felt about the baby, and she was like, "I really don't want to talk about this now. I'm working," and he took offense at that and. Yeah,
it is so sad in a way because Robin is clearly such a loyal person. At least in some contexts, and she is misusing this loyalty on situations where it really would be better if she didn't.
Absolutely, and it's leading her into this, much as I dislike Murphy, and there's aspects of I really dislike about him in this book. She's not being fair to him. So this loyalty is it's keeping her in this thing, but it's gonna. So I say, if she does end up dumping him when he proposes to her on her birthday, she could have stopped that happening.
She really could have, and you're so right. And there was a bit, I can't remember exactly in which part of the book, but it was in the earlier part where he basically outright tells her, if this is the end for us, I would rather know. I feel like you're being kind of distant.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where
he sends her text when she's on Sark saying you're withholding yourself from me.
Exactly, and I'm not sure if we are in the same place. I'm not. So tell me. So, and I thought, oh my God, this is the moment where
she can just tell the truth.
This is the moment where she's going to do it.
And think, I'm withholding the part of me that's in love with Strike. Yeah, that's quite a big thing to withhold. Yes, absolutely. Like, no, don't send him lots of, oh no, I really love you stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what made it so frustrating for me because it was such a roller coaster because there were so many points at which it was like, oh, finally, this is when it's going to pick up. Like this moment, like the moment where Robin is hiding in the bathroom and opening the Christmas present. I was like, well, surely after this, after this exchange, something is going to happen. And I don't mean very shippy. I just mean maybe a conversation.
Yeah, a conversation or maybe dumping Murphy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, no, it just goes right back down again. And I'm the person who doesn't like roller coasters. So it was,
Yeah, and the last thing I wanted to say about Order of the Phoenix things is that we definitely had Capslock Robin at Christmas when she confronted Linda.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah. That was a lot like Harry yelling at Ron and Hermione. It's like,
But there wasn't as much, I was hoping that argument was going to lead to something much closer to resolution.
Yeah, and that was disappointing.
It didn't really, so I think there's going to have to be another one. So again, it was just that, just like you were saying, with surely now, after this, we're going to get that. I thought, okay, after this, not how it happened, but I thought once it started happening, all right, this is going to be the moment. But it just left with both of them being very upset.
This whole book is just a tale of surely this is going to be the moment.
All right, I have responses to that because I don't completely agree with all of it, but I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna keep us on track. So we're gonna move on to Deathly Hallows now. Okay, so some Deathly Hallows comparisons that we have here. We already talked, or B was bringing up earlier, about how Robin is responding to the media about the strike, and how that's similar to how Harry responds to Life and Lies of Albus Dumbledore.
Yeah, and it is the media again, isn't it? Rita Skeeter is what makes him lose faith, and you know that stuff comes from Skeeter you shouldn't believe.
And I think in both cases it's like it's a dangerous combination of fact and fiction, where you know that Rita Skeeter makes up stuff, but you also know that she has often some little bits of information in there that are true.
Yeah.
And definitely in Life and Lies, we see like real evidence that she brings. And
Culpepper does the same. He mixes up true stuff with then the really disastrous one, which is false.
Yeah. And I think in both cases, this is someone who they thought they knew, and then through this media, they're realizing secrets that have been kept from them. And in both cases, real secrets have been kept from them. Like, it's not completely made up. And I think the crisis of faith, I think on the one hand, I understand that feeling of like, oh, how could Robin believe these things of Strike? But I also think that it is because of the personal connection. Like, it's because she thought she knew him so well that it makes that feeling of betrayal worse.
Yes.
And
it does, but I just think, she does carry on being in love with him, and that doesn't fit, So I think Howie's is much more believable when he feels that Dumbledore has got plans that are not based on, that they're keeping secrets. If it's just that, but that she believes such bad things, she believes him to be a domestic abuser. And I think this is...
And Harry believes Dumbledore to have been, working against all of the things that he thought he believed in. Like, that he could believe in, like...
But he thought when he was young he lost his way, and he did, so in that case it was true.
I think... To me, it reminded me of when Hermione tells Harry that Dumbledore loved him, and Harry says, I don't know who he loved, Hermione, but it was never me. This isn't love, this mess he's left me in. And I think for both Harry and Robin, like, they love someone. It's different kinds of love, obviously, but that they're now doubting whether that person loves them back, and that causes them to see the worst in the person, because I think if they knew completely that person loved them back, I don't think that they would have that kind of response to it.
No, absolutely. No, it's a pained response of, exactly, that hurt love. I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
But,
And that it feels like, if they kept this from me, do I know them? And also, do they trust me? Like, do they consider me someone who they confide in? And I think it's really interesting. I thought it was actually, as much as it pained me that Robin was doubting him in that way, I found it really interesting because it's exactly the type of accusation where you have no proof. You can't have any proof. And you have to just choose whether to believe someone or not. And that's exactly what Harry has, where he's told, choose what to believe about Dumbledore. And he's like, no, I want the truth. And both Harry and Robin are really like people who want the truth. They want to get to the bottom of the truth. They're both like detectives. And there are some things that you can't prove because you can't really know exactly what's inside someone's heart or mind, or you can't know what they've done in the past if it's a sort of he said, she said sort of situation. And then there's like, they have to make that decision. And I thought it was really, I really loved the part where Robin suddenly sees Strike again clearly, and I'll just read out that quote. Robin, watching Strike, who couldn't see her, felt suddenly and strangely as though he'd come back into focus. He was infuriating, stubborn, and secretive when she wished he'd be open, but he was also funny and brave, and he'd been honest tonight when she'd expected him to lie. He was, in short, her imperfect best friend. Really beautiful line, and to me, Harry also has that moment of when he sees Dumbledore in King's Cross, and like that's kind of the first time that they really meet each other as equals. And
I think it's a parallel to the moment when he digs Dobby's grave and decides to trust Dumbledore.
I think it is. I agree, but I also think that there's something in that moment when he has the conversation with Dumbledore, and he like brings up the things that he's mad at Dumbledore about, but also like forgives Dumbledore very readily because he can see like the pain that Dumbledore's in. Like he can see that Dumbledore is human because Dumbledore like cries, and that's, you know, like Dumbledore shows vulnerability that he hasn't really seen in him before, and that you see them kind of as two adults meeting each other, and like Harry decides to trust Dumbledore before that point, but I think the point in King's Cross is when he actually forgives him, because I think he sees him as an imperfect human being who has made mistakes and decides to let go of them.
I think it's interesting that we have kind of a parallel. Robin and Strike are like Harry and Dumbledore. As on a lighter note, I always thought of Robin as kind of a Harry-like figure because, well, she has the people-saving thing, and a certain disregard for the rules sometimes. But I think also, well, we know that J.K. Rowling gave Harry her own birthday because they share a birthday, but I don't know if there is actually anything to the next bit that I'm going to say, but I like to think that there is, and it kind of it amuses me because Robin is a diminutive form of Robert, so Robin is like little Robert Galbraith, which is so it's like a little. This
sweet.
is the
That's cute. I like that.
I absolutely agree with the Harry Robin, so I've linked it, and it does sort of link very nicely with what you point about Robin and Robert as well, with the Charing Cross Road is the place where both of them enter into the sort of magical world, which is where they were always meant to be. And it's actually the same place, you know, so the Leaky Cauldron and the going into Denmark Street, they can hear Charing Cross Road from both of the office and the Leaky Cauldron bedrooms. There's actually in exactly the same place. And Rowling lived in that area. She went as a temp to work on Denmark Street. And I like to think, so we don't know, but I like to think that is where she really decided to become a writer, and that she entered her own vocation at that moment. So I think, we get all three of them. Actually, that's one of the reasons she set them in the same place in London.
That's really lovely, actually. I didn't know that.
She only mentioned the Denmark Street temp thing in one little interview, but yeah, it's there.
One more Deathly Hallows connection. I mentioned before how my least favorite part was when Strike is being kind of violent towards the suspects, and like the part that makes me most uncomfortable in Deathly Hallows is when Harry uses the Cruciatus curse against one of the Carrows, and to me they had a sort of similar feeling to them, where in both cases, my reaction is sort of like, well, the hero isn't supposed to do this. Yeah. Like, you know, the hero, like, you know, they're supposed to not be. And in both cases, it was very, like, an emotional thing. And there was a sort of emotional satisfaction in, like, causing a bad person to suffer. And I would say the risk for Strike is a lot bigger than Harry's risk here, but still, like, we are told that, like, the Cruciatus Curse, like, using on another person, that sends you straight to Azkaban. And, like, in that situation, like, that's the least of Harry's worries, because he would be, you know, killed by Voldemort anyway if he was discovered. But, like, we have, in both cases, something that is extremely illegal and ethically very questionable. That our protagonist
he uses
does.
Imperious Curse as well, so he really does two out of three unforgivable curses that he does. Yeah,
the Cruciatus Curse disturbs me more.
The Imperious was kind of necessary. They were in a disastrous situation.
Yeah, it was like the Imperious Curse. Yeah, it was like. Yeah, it was like, okay, how else
There's no
do
other
we
way out.
survive? Whereas this was unnecessary.
Was, as you say, just an emotional.
And also,
hatred.
like, you know, what he says afterwards is like, you know, Bellatrix was right. You really have to mean it, you know? Because we saw him do it before, but it was more of like a...
Well, it was failed. Nobody did it before. Yeah.
It was failed, and it was more of like a... Yeah. And also I understood the motivation more with Bellatrix, to be honest. Like, you know, I understood the emotions behind it more. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting, and I don't know if it's intentionally supposed to make us uncomfortable or if it's not supposed to make us uncomfortable or if other people didn't find it uncomfortable. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting comparison.
I think one of Rowling's real strengths, though, is that she does write complex characters who make poor decisions and do the wrong thing. But it is really, really satisfying to read about them reflecting on their poor choices. Now, you know, we haven't come to the end of the series yet, but I would really like some quite meaty bits of the next two books. Strike reflecting on what he's done wrong, maybe with Robin or Wardle pulling him up.
Yeah. And I think there is, like, I kind of like it. Like, it makes me uncomfortable, but I also kind of like it because it does feel like life rather than storybook moralizing,
it's a good complexity,
you know? It's like life has complexity and we all do things that maybe aren't perfectly ethically whatever, you know, if we were... but that we had our reasons for doing them and that, like, that doesn't make us a despicable human being, you know? That I think it's really interesting.
And that's what I really liked about the Wardle and Barclay in that scene, that you had these different sides.
And I think that just because she has a character doing something, and even if she doesn't have them reflect on it, I don't think that necessarily means that she intends us to read it as the right thing to do. Because I think that it's very common for her characters to do things that it's just like, that's what they would do in this circumstance. But that doesn't mean that, like, we're supposed to...
I mean, that would be such a simplistic thing to read anything, really, to just go, oh, if this character is a main character and they do this, therefore this is the right thing to do. I mean, I really do hope people don't normally read books like this.
I think actually there are a lot of books written like that, and I think there are a lot of books written where it's at the very least something where the author thinks it's the right thing to do, rather than that, you know.
But there was the whole tradition of, what was it, like a Victorian improving literature or something, that you're supposed to read these things and they're supposed to tell you how to behave yourself, which I guess in some way Harry Potter is not, because, you know, yes, there are themes and there is the right and wrong, but also people have, you know, different bad things happen to good people and they all have range of emotions. And just like Harry, Hermione and other characters, we all have different limits beyond which, if we're pushed, we really cannot tell how we're going to behave, as much as we have our own moral and ethical standards. And I think that's also interesting to explore.
Yeah.
This week I'm teaching the Fairy Queen, which obviously has a nice strike link. And it's really interesting because, you know, it's written 1590, 1596, and people expect that it's going to have entirely moral characters. So each book has a virtue of temperance or holiness or courtesy, and it has a knight of that virtue. and they totally fail to embody the virtue. You sort of think, oh, they're
That's really
totally.
funny.
So people, so it's really funny because you get undergraduates going, but he's meant to be holy, and then he does this. You know, how does this work? And like, well, maybe he's not very good at embodying his virtue. And you go, oh yeah, that works a lot better. And I'm not believing this to be virtuous. And I think so that they're trying for that virtue. They're the patron of that virtue. But as a reader, we're meant to read with them and read them failing, and then hopefully getting there, you know, in the end. But it's been going on a long time to have the hero failing to embody the virtue they're trying to embody, but hopefully, yeah, they're improving in it and they're trying, and that's the virtue they believe in. And, you know, so Strike is Article, who's the book 5. He's justice. And a lot of the stuff he does at the beginning of the book is too rigorous, you know. It overdoes justice without enough mercy, and that's trying to find that balance. So yeah, maybe him kicking the heads in of suspects is a bit too Article-like at the beginning of the book.
But sometimes you can also learn more from failure than you can from success, and in the way watching people fail,
and particularly as the reader, you know,
yeah,
there's always the claim you don't learn from other people's failures; you have to do it yourself. But as a reader, you're much more in that. In their world on you. So yeah, it does have that feeling of you haven't gone through it a bit.
And I think it's interesting thinking about the age that the books are written for, that I think it is a lot more common in books written for children and young adults. Like, not to necessarily be like super moralizing all the time, but like that if your hero messes up, that then they are going to be like set right, that they will like have to face that, they will have to reflect on it, and that any immoral thing they do has to like, they have to learn from it, or, you know, they have to improve from it. And I think that if we look at the Harry Potter series, I think for the most part, we have our hero acting in generally pretty good ways, or if he's not, then he learns from it. But we also have ways in which he doesn't, in which the other parts of the trio don't either. And so I think it's a lot more complicated than the average children's or young adults book.
Yeah.
In that way.
Yeah, but I think another thing that's important in children's and young adult literature is that I can't remember where I got this from. That's not my thought. I've heard it, and I thought, yes, this is actually, I think this is right, is that you are supposed to leave the reader with hope at the end. Well, there is no such requirement in books targeted at adults.
Yeah.
So I think we can expect more misery in Cormoran Strike than we could.
Oh, there is definitely hope. Yeah. But definitely left me with hope.
Yeah.
Just,
Yes.
Not a promise.
And that's sort of the romance genre, which I think this isn't, you know, primarily romance, but there is the romantic element that everyone knows that the romance is going to work out. So that allows for all of the misery along the way to feel like it's leading, it's like, it's okay because, you know, it's all going to work out, you know?
Yeah. And I also feel J.K. Rowling doesn't seem to be the sort of writer to write the books that don't end up in some way hopeful, because I've read a good few novels where basically there is zero resolution and there's kind of a mildly poetic ending. There's like a beautiful scene and everybody's just as miserable as they were throughout the entire novel. And I was like, okay, then.
Yeah.
So I don't think she likes that. I don't think she would do it.
Although I do think The Casual Vacancy was very sad.
Yes, but The Casual Vacancy was a different,
that was a different style.
And I think you could argue that it was at least hopeful. So we didn't see full redemption and completion.
But we did have death of a toddler.
There was definitely hope.
Pretty hardcore.
Yes. Well,
spoilers.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. Well, spoilers of everything.
I'm just joking.
But no, absolutely. In her series, she's we got a happy ending, no question.
All right, so Louise, you had some Cursed Child comparisons that you wanted to share.
Yeah, I mean, of course, when we thought book 8, there are some that, and of course, Cursed Child was billed in many ways as the 8th book in the Harry Potter series. I don't think it was any such thing. I'm in the group of fans that see it more as author-approved fan fiction rather than an actual part of the Harry Potter canon. But I do remember I did go see the play in New York, and I remember that every time a familiar character appeared on stage for the first time, the audience would just break out in applause, except for Umbridge. She got booed, but
As she should.
That's appropriate for her. But anyway, when I was reading The Hallmarked Man, I got that same kind of sense, like Strike and Robin maybe were spinning a time turner a bit, when all these previous characters. I don't think we've ever had a character from a previous case appear in person before, a witness, suspect, anyone like that. I mean, the cops obviously show up. People like, Spanner show up, but here we had Nina, we had Kiara, we had Ricky, we had Marguerite, all of these characters. As you said, it was a strange place for a clip show, but every time one of these old familiar characters would show up, it was like, yes, and you feel that little spark of delight again. So that gave it in some way a very Cursed Child feeling for me, which I thought was interesting. I had not expected that. I do think Cursed Child shares some of the Hallmark Man's problems in terms of the plot being a bit overly complex, the characters not seeming quite themselves, particularly, a lot of characters, Kiara, Nina, even Valentine, when they showed up again, they were a lot nastier than when we met them the first time. I mean, Kiara was pretty cool, I thought. Nina, was okay. I thought she was relatively classy. She called Strike out for using her, and then she moved on. And then, she shows up in this book, and turns out she's still bitter after 6 years. Even Valentine wasn't that bad when we met him back at Annabelle's. I mean, he shook hands with Strike. He tipped him off about Jago wanting to name him in the divorce. He, had no trouble with Madeline getting together with him. But, he shows up in this one and he's a complete monster. So, anyway, it was a little bit depressing in some ways to see these characters that we, again, kind of thought we knew, thought were okay, but they were really kind of uniformly bad, except for Marguerite. She was exactly the same. But anyway, that was interesting to me, and so that's one reason I got a little bit of Cursed Child vibe, and I actually wrote an entire blog post about it, which is in the link that's in the show notes. So if anyone's interested in that, they can go look there.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, that sort of time, like, I saw it as sort of, not quite a time turner as in going back in time, but we're sort of seeing how time has...
Well, left its mark, isn't it? That's one of those words she said for it. Yeah, the scars that things give us.
Has left its mark, yeah. Yeah, that it's kind of, this sort of what's past is prologue, this idea that all of these connections that they've had are continuing to affect them to this day, and that they are affecting the other people too. That, how Strike acted with Nina affected her to the, over time, and now he's getting the ramifications of that, and Valentine, he's gonna be different before Charlotte killed herself. After Charlotte killed herself, now he is seeing Strike differently, and some of that. There's just a lot of, how has time affected everyone? And
as Janice would say, actions have consequences.
It's true.
Yeah.
Actions have consequences. Yeah.
Particularly. Yeah. I will make sure they have consequences. Just on the just on the sort of literal, this marking, obviously the most sort of literal version of this, things in the past having marking you physically is the scarring in Robin's fallopian tubes. And I just wanted to just quickly, because Louise, you said earlier that she couldn't have children, and that's not true. She just can't have children naturally. Yeah. So I just wanted to just put that out, so we can get past the scar, but we're going to need some intervention.
Well, I mean, the biggest issue for Cursed Child for me was that, both the movies and the books made it clear Harry had no trouble with Albus Severus being a Slytherin. He said, what if I'm in Slytherin? Well, then Slytherin will have gained a fine young wizard, won't they? And the whole premise of Cursed Child is that Harry has a big problem with Albus being in Slytherin, and it's going to ruin their entire relationship.
The person who's nicer is Scorpius. Obviously, you have no reason to believe that Scorpius is not ghastly at the end of Deathly Hallows, and he turns out to be one of the loveliest people. So I just wanted someone who could be nicer than he is.
But that completely different Harry we had about we had old Harry with cool with Albus being Slytherin, and this Harry and Cursed Child is not. I mean, it reminded me of, again, what we were talking about before, that Strike seems to have flipped his moral compass a bit. What I'm really remembering is, when he says to Robin, we can't justify looking for the living Fleetwood because the clients specifically said she doesn't want us to. It isn't our job to tell the client what she wants investigated. Well, that is the exact opposite of what he said to Izzy Chisel back in Lethal White. He said to her, the client doesn't get to tell me what I can and can't investigate. Unless you want the full truth, I'm not your man. And, so just this complete reversal. And it reminded me of the reversal Harry had in terms of, it's okay if my son is a Slytherin. Oh, no, it's not. Yeah.
And I think what's interesting in Cursed Child, and, like you were saying, I don't consider Cursed Child canon, so I think that discrepancy is just, this is, the Cursed Child version is just wrong. But anyway, I think as a comparison, there is the interesting part where we see the scars from the past in terms of with Amos Diggory and how he's still affected by that, by what happened to his son, and that we see Albus in a very, I think, childlike way, sort of thinking, well, I can just go back and fix it. And, we can just fix the past. And then he won't be scarred in this way. And realizing that you can't really do that. And we won't even get into how the time turner works very differently. And we won't get into that. But, that we see here in this book, I think it's similar, where it's like, they have, the past is still affecting them, and they have to just figure out how to live with it, like they don't have that option of being like, oh, can we go back and change it? It's just like, how do we live with it? How do we figure out how to change ourselves so that we're not being affected by that past in the same way that we had been, or held back by it.
And as Strike trying to run away from his problems, he literally gets bitten by a dog. So,
should we go on to our Book 9 thoughts?
Okay, so Galbraith says that Book 9 is going to pick up 5 minutes after Book 8 ended. All right, so I'd be very interested to hear what people think is going to happen. And particularly, was that last phone call that Strike heard and let go to voicemail, was that important? Is he going to regret not picking up that phone?
I was curious about that, about whether Robin was calling him or something.
I feel like that's likely.
Yeah.
There is the problem, why would Robin call him on the office phone, though, isn't there?
Well,
or she got hit by a bus because she ran into traffic.
Well, that literally is my suggestion.
Oh no!
Great
that's
minds.
That's the moment of thinking about the step in front of the bus is about.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a distinct possibility. I mean, I think she may not make it to the Ritz. I think she could have have, we haven't actually seen her have a panic attack all the way through this. And, given she has a history of that, it would be very realistic to expect her to at some point
We have
a
had
panic attack.
Charlotte. Sorry, not the panic attack, but the Charlotte being hit by a bus. I think that means we can't have them being hit by a bus.
Oh, I think that might just have been a foreshadowing.
It's too close.
There,
Yeah,
too.
it's too close. It's not. Yeah, you decide which one it is, isn't it? But yeah. Sorry, panic attack. Yeah.
But anyway, she doesn't necessarily have to get hit by a bus, but I'm thinking she could hyperventilate, she could pass out, something could happen to her that stops her from getting to the Ritz. And the reason the office phone got called is because the EMTs or the Good Samaritan or whoever that was that helped her, found the business card and was trying to get someone who knew her, who could come and assist her. And so they pulled the business card out of her pocket and called the office phone.
Is that time? I don't know how much time has passed. Is that plausible?
Well, that's what we don't really know. I mean, Strike had about that 5-minute conversation with Pat, and then he sits down and he has that whole couple of paragraphs of thought about fate and 3 times in his life he'd made life-changing decisions that no one else had forced, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how long that thought process happened.
There's the number 3 again, by the way.
Oh yeah. Was he sitting? Was that a 2-minute thing, or was he sitting there brooding about that for 20, 30, 40 minutes? I don't know. One hint that some more time might have passed. Okay, and our favorite fish. Okay, so Robin had noticed the Elton fish right after Decima left, and then she sat down for coffee. Had maybe 10, 15 minutes of coffee and chat with Strike, and then she left. They had the encounter on the stairs. She leaves. Strike goes back to the office, chats with Pat. Robin did not notice anything wrong with the black fish when she was looking at the tank then. So I don't know how long it takes a fish like that to go from swimming around healthy in the tank to gasping on the top. But I would think that would not happen in 20 minutes. I would think that would take a little bit more time at least. So that's a piece of evidence that Strike might have actually, sat there and brooded for a decent amount of time, at least long enough for, the EMTs to get to Robin and to search her pockets and try to call. Just a thought.
Just on the fish.
Listeners, if you know anything about fish, let us know.
Yes, the fish line.
Any fish keepers out there, if you could let us know how long it takes.
Everyone has spotted this, but just in case, the other fish, the Travolta and Elton, we've got the word John is missing, and that's because detectives are known as Johns, so that's the other members of the mafia.
That's so cool.
Okay. All right.
I love that.
Well, I am predicting we're going to go through some more Johns. We're going to probably have Fogarty and Mellencamp and Antwistle, and then Pat's going to decide that the tank's plenty full with just Strike and Robin after all. It doesn't need a third fish.
No Little John?
Will we have a number of fish for the rest of the agency?
I mean, I could totally imagine Robin having a panic attack. I don't know how she hasn't already been having one all day, thinking that Murphy's gonna propose. I think okay, I'm not sure about the voicemail. Like, I think that might be significant, but I'm not exactly sure how. But I think I'm like, does she tell him that she's sick? Like, I cannot imagine how she could go to the Ritz like this. I truly can't.
I mean, I do fear that if she goes to the Ritz, she says yes, because she's just too embarrassed to say no. I do know someone who did this. Her boyfriend took her on a holiday to Paris, and she just thought, I can't at the beginning of the holiday.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. But that's real life. I know someone who did that, and then at the end of the holiday said, actually, sorry, it's a no.
I have my fingers crossed. Yeah,
so it's possible. But yes, exactly. But I could see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I think I think it would be completely reasonable for her to say, like, wait, we haven't discussed this at all, and, you know, you're still figuring out things.
Do you remember the thing about, you know, not making any long-term decisions because you're drinking again? Didn't I just say that to you?
Exactly. So I think it would have been very reasonable for her to say that and just say, like, this is not a discussion we're having right now. Like, not like we're breaking up, just like, that's not a reasonable thing. Or even tell him ahead of time, like, on our way there, just message him and be like, I know you're thinking of doing this. Don't do it.
I definitely think claiming to be sick is, that was...
Well, apparently the entire, all of Scotland Yard knows he's planning.
I know. To me, I find that utterly ridiculous that he would be doing this. So that makes me feel a lot less bad for him. But... I don't know. I really, really hope she doesn't say yes but I feel like we're going to have something very dramatic happen. So either she goes, which I'm like, how could she go? And she either has a panic attack when he asks, she faints, she throws up in the bathroom, she, there's going to be something dramatic. I don't know.
I think
Can she not just go to Pat and spend a weekend with her, and Pat would talk sense into her or something? I don't know.
I love the idea. I think, Louise, you were saying this of someone talking about just Pat scooping her up and taking her off to Bridge, and I would love that. And I, this lovely thing that Bridge is one of the things that Rowling's mother-in-law plays. So she dedicates Troubled Blood to her. She says she's a demon bridge player. So there's another lovely positive Pat thing. That this is someone who she loves in real life, who she's given Pat his thing. So I think it would be lovely for Bridge to become more central. That would be great. Obviously, I'm saying that as a bridge player, but
I think she's going to run away, and it's got to be for some third place, and I hope it's either Pat or Prudence, but I fear she's just going to disappear for a bit.
Well, she does keep on talking about wanting to go somewhere sunny, so maybe she'll just literally get on a plane.
Get on a plane, go back to the sunshine.
Although I don't see her doing that because I
shall do it like Christy and just disappear.
Yeah.
Well, I think more Murphy, on his birthday, to just, that is the equivalent of breaking up with him. So, if she's going to do that, she has to break up with him first. She has to break up with him and then go on a flight. She's not... Yeah. If you go on a flight without telling him and just leave him waiting at the Ritz,
No, she doesn't, no. That's not, it's not, given how she's been. But I do think this, there's another thing I do blame Robin for in this is agreeing to put in offers on houses. She doesn't have to do that, and that's absolutely outrageous. When she knows she definitely doesn't want to live with him. So
Well, another vision I have is Robin going off someplace, going to Vanessa's or Ilsa's or Pat's or someplace like that, and not showing up at the Ritz. Sending him a text, sorry, I can't make it. Something very, very vague and something. Anyway, Murphy getting drunk when that happens, of course, because the Ritz serves those very strong drinks. We know that. Strike, however, decides he's going to go, do his surveillance thing, and he wants to be able to see
Strike
her.
Takes her place.
If she's leaving the Ritz with a ring on. And so he arrives, to see Murphy being drunk and being dragged away by the police and celebrating then. And that would be funny. Another idea I heard someone talking about was speculating that Murphy had invited her parents and his parents to the dinner and was going to propose in front of them.
Oh, that's awful.
Well then he deserves everything he gets.
That would be the only way of making us not sympathetic. Okay, Murphy, you deserve this. Yeah, I don't think that's...
Sorry, guys, I'm going to have to sign off.
Understandable.
Lovely talking to everybody.
It was great having you, Nick. Thank you so much for coming.
Great to have you,
Nick.
Yeah. All right.
Chat.
We should probably move on to our 7 ingredients then. Let's wrap ourselves up.
7 ingredients of today's special, do you mean?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Well, for our 7 ingredients today, we have 7 things that we like very much in the Hallmarked Man. And they are the fish tank, the silver bracelet, the frozen peas, Ted's fish priest, Sark carbonara, Rogue Bee's 1 beer, and pepper spray for that extra spice.
That's great. We're all getting charm bracelets with these on them, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I want one. I mean, I never wanted a charm bracelet before in my life, and now I do.
We're all going to get charm bracelets with charm bracelets on them for.
I like that, yes. Do they sell little charm bracelets for charm bracelets?
Oh, I hope so. I hope they do.
That would be perfect. I was at dinner very random, but I was at dinner in an Oxford college yesterday, and can you guess what they had on their sideboard?
What? Was it
A silver nef.
Oh, amazing. A real one?
A real silver nef. And I was like, ooh, I have to take photos of that.
Mm-hmm. Well,
yes.
I heard someone say that they were watching Antiques Roadshow, and they had one on Antiques Roadshow just a few days ago, too.
They're going to turn up everywhere. I don't understand why Rowling didn't buy that one that she had, the photo.
I'm sure they're very expensive.
Oh, they're very expensive.
Although she can afford them.
I believe she has a lot of money.
Yeah, I think she can afford it. Yeah.
But yeah, they're very expensive. But anyway, it was really exciting to see one out in the wild. I was like, yay!
Gosh, that was quite a tour de force. We've covered everything. We've covered connections to Troubled Blood, to Order of the Phoenix, Deathly Hallows, Cursed Child, Crimes of Grindelwald, possibly other things that I've already forgotten. But yeah, that was amazing. We've covered a lot of ground. So thank you so much for visiting the Three Broomsticks again. This is definitely
it was great fun. We definitely, we all did need a drink after this one.
Oh yes, yes. It's definitely a highlight of our Three Broomsticks year to have another strike episode. So if you would like to tell our listeners where to follow you, or anything you would like to promote, any cool projects you're in, let us know.
So I was thinking something that Louise and I and Irvin are all in is the Rowling Library book, The Phoenix or the Flame. So just as we've been talking so much about the Phoenix, Order of the Phoenix today, that might be a good book to plug here for anyone who wants to dive deep into the Order of the Phoenix. And you can follow me on Twitter at Beatrice Groves 1.
Okay. Yes, you can follow me on Twitter at LMF3B. I'm also write the Farting Sofa Faculty Lounge, which is found at www.fartingsofafaculty.blogspot.com.
Great. And if you have enjoyed your time at the pub today with us, please rate and review us online or tell your friends about the show. And huge thanks again to Katie Ricken, who bought us this round of drinks, possibly multiple rounds of drinks, at the Three Broomsticks. If you'd like to find us online, we're on various different social media channels, which are linked on our website and are in the show notes. You can get a preview of our Patreon schedule and find out what we are working on. And also, if you would like to leave us a comment, you can do it through our social media channels, or if you don't want to do that, you can leave us a comment on our website or email us on our email address, which is also on our website and in our show notes. What you can do on our website is you could submit a topic and let us know your thoughts at the end of the year, which is approaching sooner than all of us probably want. We do a planning session where we decide what we're going to talk about the following year. So you can definitely make a difference there. So if there is a burning topic that you feel we need to discuss, this is the time to submit the topic. And the next topic we will discuss at the Three Broomsticks is the hiring of all the Defense Against the Dark Arts professors. And today it's been me, Ev.
And me, Sophia.
Thank you so much for listening, and see you next time in The Three Broomsticks.
Cheers!
Give me big old buckets of butter beer. Give me big old barrels of butter beer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butter beer.
This episode of The Three Broomsticks was edited by Patrick Musilek. The theme song was written and performed by the Faithful Sidekicks. Make sure to check them out at thefaithfulsidekicks.com.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Yeah, apologies about that.
We're so used to having Irvin here to get everything.
Irvin just doesn't.
I can't believe he left us for this.
Well, because he really, really hates it, and we don't want that negativity. And Irvin, he can't keep it to himself,
He's not going to swallow it. No, I think he's very sensible.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure I agree. I quite like hearing people who really, really dislike something, as long as there are other people who have different ideas. If everybody doesn't like it, then it's not quite as interesting.
But I think that a lot of fans, they want to have a place where they can, if someone is just going to be negative on everything for the sake of being negative, then it's not very...
Yeah.
It's
sure.
Yeah, it's not, you don't get much out of it.
Fighting back, but Irvin's quite dominant.
Yeah.
Well, as a person who goes to a couple of book clubs, sometimes the most interesting book clubs are when nobody liked the book.
But if nobody liked the book, that's different than if you like the book and all you're hearing is everyone hating it. I personally don't enjoy that experience. I want to have people talk about why they like something if I like it.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, but I don't even enjoy talking about it if I don't like it. I'd rather move on and read something else.